Tuesday, June 30th, 2026 at 6:30. This is a meeting of the Ordinance Subcommittee of the Holyoke City Council. Our meeting is taking place here in Holyoke City Hall and is also available on Channel 15 and also on Zoom. And a great thank you to our interpreters tonight, who always do amazing work. I am Meg McGrath-Smith. I'm the chair of the Ordinance Committee and the Ward 7 City Councilor. To my left is Councilor Panich and Councilor Telheimer, and to my right is Councilor Rivera and Councilor and also Vice Chair of this committee, Councilor Linda Vacan. And with that, I entertain a motion to take up item 1.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This is item 1, minutes of the June 11th, 2026 meeting, and a thank you to Jeffrey. It was a long meeting, and I felt like you did a great job of capturing it. Are there any amendments that any members would like to propose to the minutes? Seeing none, I'll make a motion for us to adopt our minutes and receive them.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, that one we have passed unanimously. I'll make a motion.
To take up item 2.
Thank you.
Open the
And open the
hearing.
public hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
This is public hearing. This is a zone change application from Business General to Downtown Residential from Irfan Rahil at 172 Sargent Street. This is special permit 060060001 to allow for second floor residential use, and you have that in your packet in front of you. The name of the owner is Irfan Rahil from 172 Sargent Street, and the name of the applicant is Kevin Rothschild Shea from Architecture EL. You will say that over pages 2 through 4, there's a description and an application of the ask here to add apartments to the second floor. I believe we are joined online by the owner. Irfan Rahil, are you with us?
Yes, ma'am. I am here.
Okay,
Can
thank
hear
you.
me?
Yes, absolutely. Would you mind introducing yourself to the committee and describing the special permit that's in front of us?
Yes, my name is Irfan Rahil. I have applied for permit so I can get mixed use. I don't know, but from business to DRs, so we can get some apartments because they've been sitting vacant for past 15 years. So that can help us, pay property taxes and other things. Of course, there's a need for apartments also, and that's why we are trying to help, people find apartments and also for us to pay our bills. So I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I also want to read into the record. We did receive a letter from an abutter. This was sent to the Planning Board and to the Ordinance Committee. This is the letter. I'll read it into the record. To whom it may concern, I am an abutter of 172 Sargent Street. I have owned the property at 174 Sargent Street since 1988. I'm a retired cabinet maker and furniture maker and still use the building as my studio. In reading the proposal for a zone change for 172 Sargent and looking at the accompanying maps, it appears that certain facts and information have been omitted or overlooked. I own one half of the parking lot in question and marked on the map as wholly owned by Mr. Rahil. I have allowed parking there out of courtesy, but recently there have been problems since part of 172 Sargent has been rented to and is being used by a bakery and sandwich shop. Their customers and delivery trucks have often blocked my access to the building. The employees of the bakery often have 3 or 4 cars parked permanently in that lot, some of them on my property. The one handicapped space that was allocated when the space was originally turned into a convenience store, Mr. Rahil's business, has long since been removed. I am concerned that giving Mr. Rahil permission to add apartments to the second floor of 172 Sargent Street would only exacerbate the parking problem. It is a problem now and only worsens during the winter as the lot is difficult to plow. What is the occupancy estimated to be for this apartment? How many additional car or apartments? How many additional cars will this generate and where will they park? I have been generous in the past in allowing the owners and tenants of 172 Sargent Street to use spaces on my side of the lot. I would not be in favor of additional parking burdens being placed on this property, and I'm not in favor of granting Mr. Raheel permission to change the zoning for 172 Sargent Street. Thank you for your time and consideration of these matters. Peter Dellert, owner occupant 174 Sargent Street. It's my understanding, I did check in with the chair of the planning board, that this is still an open hearing on their end. We very much can ask Mr. Raheel to respond to concerns. We can raise any questions or thoughts that we have at this time, but it will be important for us to continue this hearing at this time because the planning board's hearing is still open. And hopefully that creates enough space for us to resolve any boundary issues in particular here. Councilor Bacon?
Thank you. So it's a little hard to see on this map, but for the 172 Sargent Street property, what are the abutting properties zoned? Because it looks like we just see the very edge of 172.
Downtown, I believe downtown business.
Well, so there should be...
Business
there should
general,
be at
you're right.
least- There should be at least 2 or 3 abutting properties.
Okay.
And so so we would need to know what those are.
Yes, so from the map, the building is in an R2 district, next to an RM40 district, and across the street is a BG district and a DR district. It's literally at a corner at which there are 4 different zonings for each of the buildings on that intersection of Beach and Sargent.
What isn't clear, because 172 is marked up on the outside of the circle, is 172 within the circle?
172 is this building that's right here.
The blue?
Yep.
Okay. So their abutters are RM40, BG, and R2. And you could make a slight argument for DR. It's not strictly abutting, but it's in a close vicinity.
Mm-hmm.
But it looks like the strict abutters are BG, R2, and RM40, right? Thank you. I just couldn't see that arrow.
Mm-hmm. Councilor Rivera?
Yeah, for me, I think I'm very familiar with the location. I think it's although we do need the apartments and we do need the space for the homes and for housing, I think there is something to say with regards to parking in that particular location, in that parking lot. And depending on what we're bringing in for residences, if it's 2-bedroom apartments or how many, as was questioned, I think that would, for me, that would make a difference. I myself know the traffic that's in and out of that parking lot, and if that parking lot is shared, it would be a concern if we're adding residential into that particular building, because then where would people park? Because residential parking in that little corner is already difficult, specifically for the people that live in the yellow building right across the street. There is a parking lot inside that some of them use, but they all also use public parking, which is street parking. So those 2 buildings themselves are already fighting for parking on that little block. This would add more stress to that. So I think for me, I would have to hear from the planning board around like the parking situation. But yeah, I see Rosanna's hand raised, so I'll digress.
Thank you. Yes, I want to name that we have online Councilor Purcell, and we're joined in chambers by Councilor Devine. And I see that we have a member of the planning board with us as well, Rosanna Lopez. I see your hand. Do you want to weigh in at this point?
Yes, ma'am. Good evening. As far as parking goes, I feel like it's a really simple solution. You just write it in the lease. It's it's on-street parking. You just park on the street. They don't have to park in that parking lot. You can easily put towing signs. Violators will be towed, and we just have to follow through. I mean, I don't think parking is that big of a deal. I mean, the owner, I think Mr. Peters, he's been there for like over 80 years. So I mean, there's always been some type of facility use. That area is congested. There's a shelter across the street. There's a older home building unit right next to it, adjacent in the middle of that parking lot. So it's always been highly congested, that area. Mr. Rivera said, parking has always been an issue, but I think for tenancy-wise, you just put it in the lease. You have to park on the street. It is what it is. I don't think it's that complicated.
Thank you. I also see the hand up of Renell John. Are you from Architecture EL related to this project?
Yes, I am. I'm from Architecture EM.
Yes. Mr. John, do you want to share anything at this point?
Yes, the tenant, Mr. Dellert, of the abutting property, he brought up a point about parking and spaces, but Mr. Irfan had told us that if granted, and if he gets to the point where he does have the apartment, there are spaces to the back of his property that are unused right now that could be used for parking. And some of those spaces are actually being used by the same complaining abutting neighbor to store containers that Mr. Irfan gave him permission to. So it's ironic that he is complaining about parking and he's using his parking on Mr. Irfan's property for storage and not parking. I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Bacon?
Thank you. I think we do need to clear up on this map the ownership of the parking lot too, because that seems really blurry to me. And it seems that for all concerned, that area needs to be marked, demarked somehow. And that needs to be understood, I think, by all parties. Because it seems like things have become practice,
Yeah.
but that doesn't necessarily mean they're okay.
I agree. Yes, there may be precedent here, but I do think that the planning board has shared with both that it is likely that a survey needs to occur in order to make the property delineation clear before this could move forward.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Councillor Devine. Can you speak into the mic? Thank you.
I do have a question.
Once this is hopefully complete and everything, maybe just a sign that says private parking violators will be towed. So,
Thank you. And then Councillor Bacon, a follow-up?
Thank you. My question through the chair to the applicant is relative to the apartments, how many would there be? What would be the size and number of bedrooms in the apartments? And how many vehicles would you anticipate would be associated with them?
Mr. Raheel, are you able to answer that?
Yes, we're expecting just 2 apartments upstairs, and we were thinking of putting them in the lease, that we will be allotting them 1 space per apartment. And we have 5 spaces available in the back of the building, nobody goes. If you can, I took the pictures for all day and everything for you, for the committee to see. Normally after 3-4 o'clock, the parking lot is empty. And in the back, nobody even knows that there's parking back there. So a couple of years ago, Mr. Peter Dillett asked me that, I have another container, because he has 1 container in his side of the parking lot. And then he asked me, can I put another container? I told him, yes, it's already available, it's free. Nobody's using this space. So he's using that. So he's using 3 parking spaces in the back of our parking lot. And there are 2 more spaces available besides that. And you can check, I took pictures from all day, morning, starting afternoon, 10 o'clock, afternoon, then 4 o'clock, then night. If you see, there's only 1 or 2 cars parked after 4 o'clock, hardly anybody. And not only that, the parking lot is so free that people from across the street from the other building, they come and park. The only problem we have with them parking is when it snows, we put signs, me and Peter both put signs that night parking is not allowed because snow plowers come, and then they have rough time, cleaning. So that time we, put a sign for the tow company to come and tow, and we warn, if we see cars, we put stickers on them, please remove the cars, don't leave them at night.
So just to follow up, so what would be the size of the apartments? Would they be 1, 2, or 3 bedroom apartments?
Both will be, it will be 3 bedroom and one will be 2 bedroom.
So 3 and 2 bedroom, I would just provide some feedback that in all the areas where we have these apartments, we're finding that households with 2 and 3 bedrooms often have 2 or 3 vehicles. So I'm not sure about a 1 vehicle limit, but perhaps you could put that in a lease, I don't know. But that's not my area of expertise.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm sorry, dear. Yes, we do, we'll do.
Okay.
Any other questions from members of the committee? Is there anyone else who is a member of the public who wishes to speak to this special permit? All right, hearing none.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
just so it's clear on the record, it's a zone change application.
Yes, thank you. I'm just checking to see the next ordinance committee meeting. Okay. The next ordinance committee meeting is August 13th, which is a Thursday. So I'll make a motion that we continue the public hearing for the zone change until Thursday, August 13th at 6:30 p.m.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And thank you so much, Mr. Rahil and Renal John, for
One
joining us.
question, if you allow me, the next planning hearing is on August the 25th. So they would not have met until August the 25th. If the August the 30th hearing is before that, then we might be in the same situation of
Next one
continuing.
is September 17th, I think.
Thank you. Yes, so in light of that, if the planning board is not planning to take this up again until August 25th, then let's continue the hearing instead. So motion to reconsider our action on item 2.
Second.
And I'll make a motion that we continue the hearing instead to September 17th, which is a Thursday at 6:30.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Thank you so much. That was very helpful.
Thank you. Motion to take up item 3 and open the public hearing.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing, this is from Panish, Thalheimer, and Purcell, ordered that section 6.4.6 signs in business and industrial districts, size limitations table of the zoning ordinance be amended to increase the maximum surface area permitted for each sign by special permit from 80 square feet to 400 square feet by special permit of the planning board for projects having 50,000 square feet of building area or greater, or for projects of such similar size and scale that said increased sign size is appropriate. In crafting the special permit, the council might wish to consider the value of specifying findings and conditions beyond those already specified in section 9.3 of the zoning ordinance that may be necessary to ensure that proposed signs have no undue impact on abutting neighborhoods or residences. And I'll turn it over to Ms. Panich or Thalheimer to share as makers of the order.
Okay. This, I think, is another one that we are obviously going to have to continue to hear from the planning board. And I'm thinking that the planning board will probably take the lead in fleshing this out. But the idea behind this is to get ahead of what I think we can all already anticipate as the Kmart Plaza is redeveloped. You know, we don't have a formal identity for the anchor tenant coming in. We have been told that it is big box retail. And the property is currently zoned BG. So what that means is that the signage that is currently allowed for whatever goes in there is going to be wildly inadequate to the scale of what is going in. And rather than having the developer get to the point where they're looking at designing signage and suddenly come and say, hey, wait, how can it possibly be that the maximum we can put on any face here is 80 square feet and we need a special permit for that? So the thought was, look at how we want to permit large signs for large developments now. And, the idea from the planning department, where I asked Mr. Burkott about it, was that perhaps we should do something based on the square footage of an institution going in. And since Councillor Bacon clearly has a question, I should probably pause there.
So I'm just wondering how this would line up against the signage in BH.
BH, you can go to 300 with a special permit.
Is there anything that goes up to 400 now?
Not to my knowledge. And I did look at the sign ordinance.
So this would then apply to all of the business and industrial zones, as long as it fit?
Yeah, it could. This was written, I
I mean, that's the intention of this.
Well,
I'm just trying to clarify the intention.
The potential was keep it open in case we decide that we want for it to apply anywhere in any of the business zones, but not necessarily to foreclose a situation where we say, yeah, no, this should only apply in some zones. And we
Right.
have, but yeah, it certainly could.
Okay. I just wanted to understand, because it seems like then it would sort of make a blanket sign size ordinance that would cover all the business zones.
Yeah. And I think, that is.
Under special permit. So if there was a
Well-
situation where it was next to housing and it would interfere, create a problem, that could be found to be a blocking factor.
Yeah, and I think we don't want to just suddenly open Holyoke up to giant signs everywhere. And I think all of these factors, like how big a store would have to be,
Right.
how we want to break this down, because as I reread this, I realized that it's usually, say, 300 feet of total signage per facade.
Right.
But you can break it down into two, and the way this order is written, it could be construed as just one, which was not the intention.
Right.
But my thought for tonight was, introduce the concept, talk about it now to the extent that anybody wanted to talk about it, and then continue it so that the planning board can start developing all of the criteria, and, we can start thinking about it among ourselves.
Right.
Until Kmart Plaza is demolished and we know what's going in there, this question isn't even going to come up. It will be nice to be ready when it does.
Thanks.
Are there any other questions or comments by members of the committee? Any other questions or comments from any member of the public? Okay, seeing none. To the makers of the order, we can continue this to September 17th or to one of our October ordinance meetings. For example, October 27th. Is there a preference?
I think my preference would be for whatever the chair of the committee, who is managing a very difficult agenda, prefers to do.
Well, one of my questions is, do we know how it's moving through the planning board?
Yeah.
Do we have a sense of if they may have closed their public hearing by then?
I don't know.
Well, why don't we, I'm sorry, I see Rosanna Lopez and I also see Jeffrey. Rosanna, do you want to speak to that?
It has not even reached us yet. How about the mappers?
I'm sorry, what was the last comment you said?
The signage has not even reached us yet. That conversation has not happened in our board yet.
Okay,
Okay.
So that's interesting.
So I'd say October.
okay. Jeffrey, I see your hand up as well.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, since you're looking at October, that I will be away in Dublin from the 22nd to the 29th for the Dublin Marathon.
Oh. Well, first off, congratulations, and that sounds lovely and hard. I still can't believe you run marathons for fun. Okay, so that would mean that we could do...
Are you staying with Thursdays from now on instead of Tuesdays?
It only Tuesdays got a little complicated for a variety of reasons. Some of it was council stuff and special meetings.
I'm
But
just asking for future reference.
yeah, I was hoping not to put one on the 13th, only because that's next to a long weekend. And I know a lot of folks often travel or go away. So we could put one on October 15th, the Thursday.
So moved.
Okay.
Oh, no? Okay. When don't you have a class?
I mean, the following week, but
Well,
then you're splitting hairs between the 22nd and the 27th.
Yes, well, I'm just trying to choose a date based on when Jeffrey is also in the country.
Oh, well, he's not here on the 22nd either, so the 22nd and the 29th.
No.
Yes, that's why I was suggesting the 15th.
okay.
Um,
So what's wrong with the 29th?
I think Jeffrey's
Still in
not,
Di-
he's still in Dublin.
Oh,
So not the 27th.
No. Yeah, Tuesdays get weird. Even the following November, like the second one is Veterans Day. Okay. I'm going to say that we should put this on the September 17th one because it's a date that we know. And then we'll look at the
Madam
calendar
Chair?
with Jeffrey afterwards to better understand October's calendar.
You do
Yes.
have a meeting scheduled on September 29th as well.
Well, that's helpful to know. Thank you.
I didn't have it.
All right, well, then let's move it to the September 29th meeting. Gives them a little more time. All right,
okay.
so motion to continue the public hearing to September 29th at 6:30.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone. Motion to take up items 4 and 5 as a package.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Item 4, McGrath-Smith ordered that a crosswalk be added across Northampton Street at River Terrace and ordered that a crosswalk be added across Hamden Knolls where it intersects with Northampton Street. So really quickly to give framing, and then I'll just report that engineering is working on it. Effectively, there are no crosswalks across Route 5 or Northampton Street past Lincoln Street. And a lot of folks walk in that area. So I've heard from a number of residents who would really like to see an additional crosswalk put in place. And the suggested place is at River Terrace because there's already a flashing light there that would indicate to motorists to pay attention across what is a very busy road. So the ask is for engineering to look at that and see if that's possible. And then the other one is across, this is not across the Northampton Street side, but across just Hamden Knolls, the mouth of it. There are crosswalks across every single one of those up until you get from Lincoln Street, all the way until you get to Hamden Knolls, where there is suddenly not a crosswalk across it. A resident reached out whose children walk home from school who wondered why there was no crosswalk for his children across that section of the road back to their house. And so that's where that order came from. So I heard back from Victoria Houle today that engineering is going to look at both of those and will get back to us. And that being the case, we just need to table those in committee.
Second.
Is there a second?
She seconded it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Counselor Bacon, your suggestion about,
Yes, I'd make a
Number 9.
motion to suspend rules to let our audience address item 9 on our agenda.
okay, we're going to move to item 9. We're taking it out of order. So we have a number of guests who have joined us both on Zoom and also here in chambers. If folks want to come in and join us, who want to speak to this issue, feel free. There's plenty of desks and microphones. If anyone in chambers wants to join us and be able to speak into the mic, you're welcome to cross the rail and come take a seat. Item 9, McGrath Smith Murphy Romboletti ordered that the City Council President establish by ordinance a temporary ad hoc committee to expire or sunset by June 30th, 2027, to study and provide an analysis on the potential impacts of commercial data center development in Holyoke, including electrical demand, water consumption, and environmental impacts, tax revenue, economic development opportunities, zoning considerations, public safety concerns, and best practices adopted by other municipalities, and to make recommendations to the City Council regarding potential zoning and permitting requirements. This ad hoc committee shall include one member from Holyoke Gas and Electric, Holyoke Waterworks, or a member of the Water Commission, Massachusetts Green High Performance Computing Center, the Planning Board, the Conservation Commission, Office of Planning and Development, a community member or resident appointed by the City Council President, and then a member from City Council. So this order, I'd love to hear the folks who have joined us today in chambers and then also on Zoom, and then have a discussion around how this committee should be drafted. I have given to the committee a possible draft, which we can also share up when we get there. I did it based off of the Whiting Center Study Committee because we had that in ordinance. And I wanted to name the framing a little bit in that the reason why the goal was to set it up in ordinance was so that it would be a committee that would follow open meeting law. So this means that these are open to the public, they're posted, there's minutes taken, and that means that it's a transparent, public-facing process. If we want to just sort of, yes, Councilor Bennett.
Just before we go any further, we've been given copies of the draft of this, but I think that our audience, if they're going to participate, have every reason to also get copies if Jeffrey can do that.
Screen.
Yeah, putting it on the screen is not like having it on paper.
Okay, fair. Jeffrey, are you willing to make a few copies for folks in chamber? And also we're going to put it on the screen for folks who are watching at home.
Sure. Remind me, what is it you're looking to have printed?
It's the Data Centers Study Committee draft, and we have 5 guests in chambers.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes.
I'm sorry, I just personally can't read things on the screen in here.
No worries.
Oh, is it the item that I was asked to screen share? Is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I will get that printed off in just a minute.
Thank you. Okay. I'd like to start with hearing from folks who have come to join us today, and then we'll open it up to committee members as well. We'll just start here and go forward. If you want to introduce who you are.
Sure, I'm John Goodyear. I'm the Executive Director of the Massachusetts Green High Performance Computing Center, and I'm here to listen.
Hi, Susan Van Pelt, resident of Ward 4. I spoke in full council about this earlier, and earlier today I sent an email that I think went to most of the councilors who are on the ordinance committee. I'm actually just going to take an opportunity quickly to clarify a couple of things that I wrote.
Would you like me to read it into the record?
Oh gosh, it's so long. You can if you want to, but it's long. I'll leave that at your discretion.
If you want to give us the overview and then some thoughts.
Okay, sure. So I had a number of very specific requests. First of all, addressing the issue specifically of public health, that there was no representative from the Board of Health nor from the Health Commission. A no outreach to Action for Healthy Holyoke, and the people who had comprised that organization. Also requested that the Office of Planning and Economic Development representative come please from the planning side. I think it makes more sense to do the planning first and then focus on the development that fits that planning rather than the other way around. I also thought that there would be probably a need for technical expertise and assistance for the committee, and so I thought that should be sort of built in, and probably a funding request to go with that also. I thought that having one community member would not be adequate to get an adequate breadth and depth. Particularly, I was concerned that frontline community neighborhoods that will be directly impacted will likely wind up grossly underrepresented once again in government, and I thought that should be addressed right up front in the structure. And then I thought that it was unusual and perhaps inappropriate that the city council president was given exclusive appointing authority. And I thought that that should be broken up differently, that perhaps if you're bringing in some of the members of the coalition, that they be allowed to choose who they would send as their representatives, and also that if there are going to be community appointees, that it might be more appropriate to have it either by full council, as you often do, like with the CPA committee, or to have it mayoral with council confirmation, or a combination of both. And then also, I requested that the committee be explicitly told that they could do a minority report. I remember when I was watching the Holyoke Urban Renewal Plan get developed, the community representatives felt very strongly that they were being pushed and led and managed in a way that they were having to push back against. And so they wound up taking over the writing of their own chapter. They took that away from the officials and away from the planning department people and away from the hired consultant, and they wrote their own chapter of that urban renewal plan. And I think that's a good model, that you want community voices who actually get represented in a way that the community representatives feel is accurate and fair to them. So I wanted to make that explicit in your directions to them, that along with following open meeting law and all of those sorts of things, and keeping good public records, that they also had the ability to write a minority report or write their own chapter. And then I guess the last thing that I would ask is that I think that this is a really good opportunity to change up a little bit what I've seen in government a lot of times, which is that there's not a lot of good communication or oversight sometimes. And so I would ask that each of the members of the committee report back to their respective boards and commissions on a regular basis. And I think that that helps get more eyes and ears on the project and more feedback, and can only be helpful in the long run. And then I did want to just add one clarification. I did overstate the case somewhat when I said that there was no environmental science expertise. It is, of course, true that the Conservation Commission and the Water Department have environmental expertise, but they have it in specific areas, and they don't necessarily know everything about noise pollution or about heat islands or something like that. So I did want to just clarify that I didn't mean to diminish anyone's expertise. I'm just saying that there are some things specific to data centers that are unique and different from what people's backgrounds might lead them to have expertise in. And then I guess that's it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Madam Chair and members of the council of the committee, my name is Jeff Horan. I'm the chair of the Holyoke Conservation Commission, and we appreciate being included in this. And I think the council was very wise in going ahead and for now at least banning this, so we can get an understanding of what this is. Obviously, these data centers have a lot of impact on water use and electrical use, and it may be that data centers make sense for Holyoke, but I think that is something that has to be determined. They also have, I'm not sure what the high computing center uses as far as, and we'd be interested to know that. I think those kind of things are things that we need to understand one to another, but it appears to be a significant amount of use, and we just have to determine whether that makes sense for the city of Holyoke. As far as our commission goes, the commission would be determining, I think, what member we're sitting on this, and I do think Susan's point about technical expertise, although everyone on this group brings some technical expertise, it may be worth considering having staffing or technical expertise for this committee. You mentioned the Whiting Street Reservoir Committee. We had no such expertise like that. It was just the members of the committee. And I also like the fact that this does very clearly sunset at a given time, so the report would be forthcoming in a timely way. And I think that all makes sense. Other issues that haven't been brought up as much are things like we have we're in the process of separating our sewers and our stormwater right now. So questions about, are we going to, does this water go to our treatment plants, or do we require things like treatment on site? Those kinds of things become, highly technical. And again, some people have a lot of knowledge about that. And so, but those things, there's clearly a lot to consider here. So I think the process that you've laid out is an excellent one, and we're glad to be included in that process. And to Susan's point also, I do think most people representing their commissions do go back and report that in general to their commission, but maybe not as much as we should. And some level of reporting back to you as the council in this process. I haven't had a chance to read this, but that also makes sense. So the progress is clear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Rachel Burns, and I am a resident of Ward 4. I spoke at the June 12th meeting, and I appreciate the ability to give comment then and today. I want to say thank you for access to the copy of the study committee and for taking public comment on today. I am in agreement with what has been previously said by other members of the public, and I do want to echo the expanded need for community representation on the proposed committee, especially when we're considering where these proposed data centers are being placed. I have a printout with me today of committees formed in Aurora, Illinois, one in Mansfield, Massachusetts, as well as in Raleigh, North Carolina, to have like benchmarking documentation to see what's being done. And I appreciate the level of specificity that's been designated here, but I think, I would like to just echo what was said previously, that like more community representation would be necessary, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Joe Manzi. I'm the acting manager for the Holyoke Waterworks. I am happy to join this group and answer any questions you guys might have for me and represent the department on this committee.
Thank you. All right. Is there anyone else who would like to speak that has joined us on Zoom? Okay, thank you. I see Mary Moriarty. And then I see Rosanna Lopez. Let's start there, and then I'll call on others. Mary Moriarty, are you able to unmute and speak?
I think I just unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes we can.
Okay, so I do appreciate, this plan of action. I really appreciate that we have made a ban, and I understand that these data centers are coming, and so it is good to be prepared, and it seems as though the plan of action is a good one. I appreciated Ms. Van Pelt's suggestions. I would like to add one. I'm always concerned about what happens to any of these things when they have reached the end of their useful life. And so I would hope that at the outset, that the business of how to take down the data centers would be there as a in the planning for how you would be going about permitting or whatever, and that would be included in the deed so that it follows the data center no matter who owns it. So thank you. I'm just always concerned because Holyoke has dealt with so much of the waste of past industrial trends, and it's always very expensive and time consuming. And so I would hope that we would have something in our decision making that takes care of that in advance. Thank you.
Thank you. Rosanna Lopez.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good evening. I'm here representing the planning board and just kind of piggybacking what everybody's saying, just there's a lot of information that we don't know, that we should know, and just, I'm here to support everyone and kind of gather more information despite where I personally stand when it comes to data centers. I think that we really need to do our homework before we proceed with this project.
Thank you. Are there any members of the committee that wish to speak at this time? Yes, Councilor Bacon?
So I would just like to clarify that as an ad hoc committee of the city council, that Jeffrey would be supporting this group as he does the other city council committees. Is that correct?
Jeffrey, my thought was that that was true, but do you want to weigh in on that?
I'd just like to confirm it.
The question, Jeffrey, is if you would also be supporting this committee.
Honestly, this is the first time it was brought to my attention that that would be the case. I guess there would need to be assurance that this committee's meetings didn't conflict with any of the city council's meetings or subcommittee meetings.
Mm-hmm.
If I can.
Yes, and that could make sense for us to name in the ordinance that we create. Yes, Councilor Bacon.
Right, and I would say I think it would be important that it didn't conflict with the other committee meetings, because the whole idea is that we would have accessibility and transparency relative to this. Because it will be a committee of the council.
Yep.
Thank you.
Just writing down a note. Okay. Any other thoughts at this time? Councilor Devine?
I think your committee member first.
Oh, sorry, Councilor Rivera.
Yes, thank you. For me, I agree with some of most of what's been said tonight. With some of the people coming from the public, thank you guys for coming. I fully understand that you're not being paid to be here, and for you guys being able to come out here and just represent the people, I really appreciate that. I think for me, with regards to like the committee makeup piece, I had a couple comments as well. I think with regards to community representation, I also echo the sentiment that there should be more community representation, specifically of wards 1 and wards 2, where this, if it were to happen, would more than likely be housed. I would, in my opinion, recommend that there be 2 reps from Ward 1 and 2 reps for Ward 2. So that way there's fair representation for that both of those communities that more than likely will have to share the burden or take on the burden of having another data center entering the community, their specific community. And when I say specific, because it's directly to them versus I live in Ward 3, which is a couple miles away from Ward 1 and Ward 2. Well, it depends where you slice it, but where the data center would be located. I'm cool with most of the other suggestions. I think if we're going to have that many community reps from Ward 1 and Ward 2, if the president was going to be able to select someone of their choosing, I wouldn't push back that much. It wouldn't be an issue to me because there's representation, equal representation from the communities that more than likely are going to be housing or dealing with whatever it is, the noise or whatever issues come up or don't come up within the community. So I just want to make sure that it's being heard that if we're going to proceed with the ad hoc committee, that in my opinion, there should be more people from the community that make up the committee than there are city representatives. Mostly because city representatives, obviously, we all work for the city, and if there is a mission or a goal that we are trying to attain, that's great, right? We're all working together to make sure that happens. But if the public is not on the same page and they're trying to get a way in to try to change it or do something different, having a seat at the table, or at least a significant amount of seats at the table, allow for them to be able to do that in a way that might be effective for them, if that makes sense. And that's it for me.
You'll see in the draft that you have in front of you, which I wrote, I based off of the Whiting Street Reading Reservoir Study Committee. And you'll notice there are some shifts here because I was already trying to respond to things that I was hearing from folks, from public comment, from people who called me, emailed me. So I just want to name that what's in front of you is a draft. I'm looking for folks to make suggestions. So I hear Councilor Rivera saying, I want there to be 4 community members. Right now, under this current draft, you notice there's 9 total members. 1 from Holyoke Waterworks or Water Commission, 1 from Holyoke Gas and Electric, 1 from Conservation Commission, 1 from the Planning Department, 1 member from the Board of Health or the Health Commission, 1 member from the Massachusetts Green High Performance Computing Center, and 2 community members as appointed by the City Council. I just adopted the same language as what was in the Whiting Street Reservoir study, which asked for at-large community members, elected by a majority vote by City Council, including one with a community health or scientific background, because that came up in public comment in a number of ways. And that may not be sufficient, but that was where I was starting. I realized I dropped a member of City Council from it. If we want to have a member of City Council on it, we could add one back in. From my perspective, the group is presenting to council, so maybe you want someone as a counselor throughout the whole process to be a part of it. Maybe you don't. Maybe you just want it to be a group that feels very much like we're doing the technical and community-based work and we're bringing it to council. I'm open to either. It sets an expiration term for the Data Centers Study Committee for June 30th, 2027. And it says, no member of the Data Center Study Committee shall serve on said committee for compensation. Under community members, it says, community members of the committee shall be residents of the city and shall neither be employees of the city nor serve on any other board or commission. Community members as appointed by City Council shall be appointed by a majority vote of the City Council. Any community member of the committee may be removed by majority vote of the City Council. I included that. It was in the Whiting Reservoir piece, and it had to do with quorum, because this is a public-facing body that follows open meeting law, has to meet quorum. So if you have a member that is never attending and it's making it hard for the committee to have quorum, you would want to have a way to respond to that. And then it says, within 30 days of the adoption of this ordinance, each designating authority would make their initial appointments to the committee. Under scope of work, it has the exact same language as was in the original order. So the Data Center Study Committee shall study and provide an analysis on the potential impacts of commercial data center development in Holyoke, including electrical demand, water consumption, environmental impacts, tax revenue, economic development opportunities, zoning considerations, public safety concerns, and best practices adopted by other municipalities, and make recommendations to the City Council regarding potential zoning and permitting requirements. And then I think we will want to add in a B around adding in language around not conflicting with other City Council or subcommittee meetings and being supported by the City Council assistant. And then B would become C. On or before June 30th, 2027, the committee shall submit a written report to the City Council detailing its findings and recommendations. Any member or members who disagree with all or part of the committee's report may submit a minority report, which shall be transmitted to the City Council at the same time as the committee's report and be included in the official record. One thought that I have around scope of work is that we may, after where it says commercial data center development, I wonder if that is enough, or if we want to name something around and related industries. So I asked this because I had someone reach out to me who had a lot of technical knowledge and said, well, it sort of depends on how you're defining it, and there are these non-production environments, which are sometimes called testing facilities or testing centers or test beds, that maybe wouldn't be considered data centers but really do similar work. Would it make sense to also include language to make clear that the committee could also look at that? So that's a question, and I don't know if anyone in this room has any of that knowledge, but that was a question around if we needed to make that shift in order to allow the committee to also address those concerns. And then under administration and operation, it just says they shall not meet or conduct business without the presence of a quorum, and a majority is considered a quorum. The committee shall approve its actions by a majority vote of the quorum. A committee shall maintain records of its business and shall submit meeting minutes to the City Council within 30 days of any meeting held. All meetings will be recorded and made available on Holyoke Media within 3 days of any meeting held, and the committee may select one of its members to serve as a chairperson and may elect such other officers as it deems appropriate. All right, I see Councillor Panich, and I see Councillor Purcell online, Councillor Bacon, and then Councillor Devine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just two general points. One is that I assume that we are not doing a final draft tonight aloud on a document that we just saw. And therefore, we will be tabling this for a vote to recommend to the city councilor at some subsequent meeting. If that is not your understanding, we can certainly talk about it. But, I think that it is likely that many of us will have thoughts that we do not have in the next hour or so. The other is that I would like to see it made clear somewhere in this, even though I think it is fairly implied, that the recommendations of this committee are not binding upon the city council.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I've got for now.
I see Councillor Purcell's hand.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I agree. First of all, I'm especially proud of the Ward 4 residents that are there. Thank you both, Susan and Rachel, for showing up. Second of all, we are all affected by water. We are all affected by noise, and we are all affected by odors and smells and pollution. And in my opinion, that's what data centers do. They affect the water, they make noise, and they affect the environment. So I concur with everything said so far tonight, except for just my little add is that we respectfully have a member from each ward represented on the committee, because we're all affected in the same way, except for Ward 1 and Ward 2, which are disproportionately affected by it, just because the way the world is and the way and what they do in communities that are underserved. So I would like to have a representative from each ward. I was a former member of the community advisory group at what happened when we shut down the Mount Tom coal plant. I represented Ward 3. Even after several meetings, can you still hear me?
Yes, sir.
After several meetings, a lot of the ward representation dropped off. And the final outcome of it was I was the last ward member. I was the last ward member to stay the entire course. So at least have a ward member from each ward. And I guess it's way in the future, but if it ever comes down to it, and I hope it doesn't come down to that, but if it ever comes down to the city deciding that they want to lift the ban, then I would also ask that we even petition the city to put it on a ballot and let the residents decide for sure if the ban should stay forever. Thank you, that's all. Have a great night. And thank you, Susan, and thank you, Rachel.
Thank you. Councillor Bacon and then Councillor Devine.
Thank you. I just have one suggestion as an edit to the draft under scope of work.
Mm-hmm.
Because we do have a data center in our city, I would like to add in after the phrase shall study and provide an analysis on the current and potential impacts. I think it's really important for us to understand what has been happening over the last decade.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Devine?
Yep, thank you, Madam Chairman. One thing, I just wrote a couple notes real quick. The city council president really should be doing a lot of this, and we don't have her doing that. I grant that she's not here today, but it's not in your list of things to do. So I certainly think if you're going to make appointments, let the city council make those appointments of the city councilor. That should be, she has a right to ask them would they like to serve. Just like she asks us, would you like to be on this committee or this committee, whatever. I'm looking at it that way. And then I don't know, and again, I'm going by your order, and then what's the new stuff we got here. The order it said city council president, city council. Does that mean the city council confirms whatever appointment? I do believe that we need to have the president's input since she's on this order. The other thing is, I think it was Councilor Bacon who mentioned that Jeffrey would be part of this, and I have a problem with that only because Jeffrey's really busy, with 13 of us, and that just the information that we have to get from him, and I think that, I just think that's unfair, but again, I think if the president were involved, maybe that might be different. Do we need to put some of these things in our rules? I don't know. Let's see, on item C, under establishment and membership, shall be residents of city, blah, 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 and shall not serve on any other board or commission, community members as appointed by, I'm not sure if anybody else is on a city board here. Then it says, the committee may be removed by a majority vote of a city council. So that means that the committee that was put together has to come before the city council to remove, it has to be removed by a majority vote of a city council. Is that for cause? Should we check with the law department? Again, I'm not trying to be critical, I'm just trying to look at this in a different way and compare it to your order.
Yeah.
You and the president's order. And I really think she should be more involved. And again, she couldn't make it tonight. And I'm strongly opposed to Jeff being part of it because he's not part of any other commission, and I think that's setting a bad precedent. Just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to name that the language, any community member of the committee may be removed by majority vote of the city council, was language I took directly from the Whiting Reservoir Study Committee. I'm open to amending the language. Just wanted to make sure it was clear where that did come from. I see Councilor Talheimer, Councilor Rivera, and then Ms. Pelt. Yes, absolutely. Sorry, we're down a mic.
Okay. We're just down one microphone. To Councilor Devine's point, I think this is important to mention too, because under administration and operation, we're looking particularly at the committee shall maintain records and post meeting minutes to the city council within 30 days of any meeting held. I think it's important to have those meeting minutes, but one of the things, having previously been on a board in Holyoke with a volunteer committee, it is difficult to get those done. And it is difficult to get those posted. That can be a challenge if you don't have technical support like Jeffrey. And related, under D, all meetings will be recorded and made available on Holyoke Media within 3 days of any meeting held. That is something that's going to need technical support in a way that, for example, like the Holyoke Local Cultural Council doesn't have, and other boards and commissions don't have. So there's going to have to be a particular piece of that that includes other departments, if those are directions we decide to go in. So, thank you.
Yep. Ms. Van Pelt?
Thank you. Yes, I just wanted to echo what Councilor Devine said about for cause. That's something that I've actually raised as objections when the CPA committee was first formed. I don't remember if I commented on the Whiting Street Reservoir Committee or not, but I remember it distinctly when the CPA committee was formed that I felt that that little phrase for cause should really always be in there. And it could be for cause for absence, that's a legitimate cause. But I don't like the idea that people can say, oh, I don't like politically where this is going, and so I'm going to drum up a majority to get this person off and replaced with somebody that I like better. So I want to make sure it isn't subject to that. And then also on 3, administration and operation, part B, it says the committee shall approve its actions by majority vote of the quorum rather than of the body. And that, just for argument's sake, say you have 13 members on this committee. You don't right now, but say you have 13. That means that 7 would be a quorum, which means that a 4 would be enough to move an item forward as your final document. That doesn't seem quite right to me. I think usually it's of the body rather than a majority of the quorum. So if quorum could be changed to body, that would be great. And then finally, I just wanted to get back and clarify something that I said that wasn't clear. When I said that I would appreciate the members reporting back to their respective commissions, what I had in mind was not commissioners reporting back to their full commission, but it was more like you have the gas and electric having an employee, a staff employee who is going to be here, have them report back to the gas and electric commission or board that oversees their work. And the same for the water department. You're a staff member, but if you could keep your board updated as to what you're doing on this committee, I think that would be helpful for getting more eyes and ears on the issues. Thank you.
Councilor Rivera.
Yeah, for me, there's a couple other things that stood out to me after reading it. No member of Data Center Study Committee shall serve on a said committee for compensation. Is that only for like residents that would be serving? Is everyone else?
It
seems like
means,
they'd be
for example, someone who is representing, someone could not be paid to be there.
But I guess if we're looking, right, we have a member from Holy Gas and Electric, a member from the planning department, member from, if it's a commission member, that then not necessarily paid, but if it's a member that works for the city, that would probably be someone that's paid. So like, it might make sense to kind of differentiate that, because it kind of sounds like anyone that works, that's going to be a representative of the people, won't get paid. But for everyone else, it'll kind of be in their duties and responsibilities of their job. So like, how would we kind of like...
I took it from the Whiting
I understand
Reservoir,
that.
and I think whether it achieves this or not, I think the goal was saying no one could be paid additional for doing this work. And that it's very much considered a volunteer board. So even if you are coming as, for example, coming from Holyoke Waterworks, the goal is not to say like, okay, cool, you're doing these hours, let's consider that you're,
Right.
on the clock time, but that no one can be considered as being paid during those hours for volunteering to be on the committee.
Okay, and then there's the residency piece, right? Would that also apply to the people that would be serving with regards to whether they're from Holyoke Waterworks, Holyoke Gas and Electric, Conservation, well, the commission is literally a commission. It's not a director or whatever. But planning department, same thing. I think if, like, that kind of has to be hashed out too as well, if we're talking about residency requirements. And if we have someone from the Green High Computing Center representing too as well, or even their board. I'm not familiar with anyone that's on their board as well. So to me, there's a lot.
The residence piece here just is under C for community members, acknowledging that not everyone who might necessarily serve from one of the other, like Holyoke Gas and Electric or from Holyoke Waterworks, for example, may
So it
not
only
be a
applies
resident.
to whoever would be a resident.
It would only apply to community members,
So again, I would double down
with
on.
the understanding that we should not see folks outside of Holyoke brought in to represent the community.
So then I would probably like to make an amendment to add under A and after 7 to add 4 separate community members, 2 of them from Ward 1 and 2 of them from Ward 2, bringing up the number of community numbers to 6. So that way there's a more fair representation and there's actual community representation from people that kind of are in the neighborhoods.
Can I ask a question about that?
Sure. Why
So
not?
part of it is thinking around purpose. So from my perspective, the purpose of this group is for us to amass the information that we need in order to then bring this to the public. So this is not like this group will come up with these recommendations, we'll get them to council, and then we vote to approve them. After these recommendations, an order would need to be filed. And then a robust public-facing process has to occur through planning board and through ordinance here, as we then consider whether or not to accept those recommendations or reject them, and then move it to council.
Yes, I fully understand that, but the recommendations are being made without representation, in a sense, right? If we don't have a fair amount of representation from community members, I would say you can't, nothing for us without us is the quote that I would stand by, right? Like, so if you're gonna sit there and design something that people in Ward 1 and Ward 2 more than likely would have to live next to or deal with on a regular basis, I would argue that they should have a fair representation as to how this looks, feels, and it will come together, whether it's implementation or or the design process. Again, whether they have the utmost knowledge on data centers or they don't, they will still be living next to it. My daughter goes to Kelly School, which would be not even 150 feet away, maybe 200 feet away. Again, so are we saying that there are certain members in the community that know more than our public does? I'm not saying that that's what you're saying, but I think for me, the concept is historically, and not just the Puerto Ricans, I would just say in general, Ward 1 and Ward 2 was designed from day one for the poor people. Whether you were Irish, yes, it is true. Don't even say that. That's true. The row houses were built for the poor people. Yes, it is. It's historically written. Like if you do historic research on Holyoke, you will see that the poorest people in the community have always lived in Ward 1 and Ward 2. And the richest people have lived in Ward 7. That's why the big, nice houses for the people that own and ran the factories of the paper mills lived in Ward 7. The people that were the grunt workers at the bottom of the barrel lived in Ward 1 and Ward 2. Before the Puerto Ricans came, it was in the flats specifically, it was Portuguese, Polish, and Irish. In other communities, it's different. Now it just so happens to be for the last 20, 30 years that it's Puerto Ricans. And eventually it might be Haitians, because there's a huge Haitian Creole population growing in these neighborhoods too as well. So I think for me, where I stand on here is, again, I stand with the people, and if we're gonna be developing something that's gonna quote unquote give recommendations to the people or how they're gonna live or how they should live for the next 30 to 40 years, some people should be invited to the table and should be sitting at the table, and it should be more representation of the people that are gonna be impacted than the people that are gonna be working in favor of, not in favor, but working or getting paid in a sense. And I'm not saying it like it's a bad thing, but the reality is I work here. I'm a city councilor and I know what's going on. I see what's going on and I understand how this moves and how things move. I'm not gonna continue playing that game. I'm all set. So the reality is, for me, where I stand, there should be more representation of people that are gonna be impacted by these things on a regular basis on all committees, not just this committee. I think the same for CPA. I would say the same for the HG&E board. I would say the same for any board that comes through in the committee. If you're looking at these boards and you're looking at these commissions, there's barely anyone from Ward 1 and Ward 2, if we're talking about that. And if we're talking about voting and getting people out to vote and to be participating in the democratic process, where's the least amount of voters that come out of Ward 1 and Ward 2? Can we see why? So I think for me, if we're going to try to inspire and change the narrative and change the argument, these are the steps that need to be taken to get in that direction. It may look small, it may look like we're trying to cater to certain communities, but the reality is we should be doing that because it's their community that it's going to be housed in, whether people want to say it or not. It's the elephant in the room, the reality here that, yeah, we're talking about data centers, but where are they going to go? There's only one place. Two places. Ward 1 and Ward 2 are the only places right now that they can go. So until that changes, I would argue, till I can't argue anymore, that this is the position I stand on. I'm only one person. As we've seen many other times, it's okay. And I guess I digress from there. Thank you.
I will say that I'm all for representation, and I think part of what I'm trying to figure out is what's the right composition of the group, and also fearing that it gets so large that it becomes unwieldy and also runs into issues with quorum. And so as a result, I think right now it's actually 8. And if I would like to hear if it's important to folks to have a city councilor on this or not, because right now, based on the current draft, there isn't actually. Right now, it's 6 members from departments and commission, or 5 members from departments and commissions, 1 member from a current computing center, and 2 community members. So 25% of the committee currently under this draft that you have in front of you are community members, so a quarter. So I guess what I'm asking is, what's the right percentage, and also what's the right mix to make sure that it's a group that's functional, that has the right, representation in the room, but also can be a functional group. Ms. Van Pelt?
Thank you. I just wanted to echo everything that Izzy said. He really spoke to what I believe very strongly, which is that you can't get good outcomes unless you have the people at the table to make those outcomes. And I appreciate what you said about this being unveiled to the public. But you're going to get a better a better work product if you have people in there from the beginning, and you're also going to get better public buy-in if they know that they were represented from the beginning. Instead, you risk unfolding what happened with the big zoning change package, where all of this work went on, and then it got unveiled to the public, who freaked out because they weren't included from the beginning. So please make that a priority. Thank you.
Councillor Devine and then Mr. Manzi.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I apologize to my colleague over here, but I think I can honestly say that I'm the oldest person in this room, which means I've lived a lot longer than a lot of people. Maybe Mimi, I don't know. We might be on the same page there. But Ward 4 had a lot of poverty in it, just so you'll know. And I think it may still have some poverty in it. Granted, I know what you're saying about Wards 1 and 2, but I can't say that they were poor communities back then, because that is where, certainly, and I grew up when the city had 63,000 people in it. So I remember and the wards were completely different numbers, everything. So I'm just saying, Ward 4 in my day was certainly a poor community. But again, I have to reiterate, and again, maybe Meg McGrath-Smith has talked to the president, but giving her respect, it specifically says, ordered by the city council president, and you all saw what happened at budget, where people interrupted her and things like that. I just think that's wrong, just my opinion. We elected her as president, and she should be treated that way. So, just my opinion, sorry.
Thoughts? Yes, Mr. Manzi.
I just have one quick question. I'm hearing wards 1 and 2 being mentioned tonight. Is Water Street the location that we're talking about, and is that the only option?
I just want to name, and I'm sure Councilor Pinish might want to name as well. What's interesting to us as a committee is that we started this process of looking at creating a ban, so there would be no pressure at all, as the committee was then considering creating any kind of ordinance around data centers and related industries starting this winter. There was no proposed project at all. And it was interesting watching what happened after that. So we did have several developers come to one of our public hearings and did weigh in and kind of address that they were potentially interested in putting a data center here, but there was never any address or proposed details at that time. And so really what we're looking at is not in any way about one specific project, but about writ large, developing an ordinance that names very clearly if there are any situations where we would allow a data center, and of what size, where. The only town that has in the state of Massachusetts created an ordinance on this topic is Mansfield. This is all new. All of it is unraveling in real time as we are trying to get the information that we need and figure out how to respond. And theirs effectively allows small data centers, between 1 and 2 megawatts by special permit in certain areas, and then has additional boundaries around ones that are between 3 and 5, and then bans anything that is 10 or larger outright. That was what made sense for Mansfield. Right. Our job is going to be to ask this committee to gather the information, do the research, and come back to us with, given Holyoke's realities, and I mean all of them, right? Environmental, in terms of social justice, in terms of all the technicalities, what makes sense for us as a city. And that does include, and I really am appreciative of Councillor Bacon's proposed edit, considering our current computing center as well as potential one. Thank you. Councillor Bacon?
Thank you. I just want to summarize some of the recommendations that have gone around the room and just throw this out there for consideration. If we accept the concept of 6 community members and a member from the city council, we would then have a body of 13. It's usually good to have an odd number, just as a matter of quorum and voting, rather than a even number where you end up with a bunch of ties. And if I would say that around the matter of cause and membership, because it does create a problem if people don't show up, I think could perhaps be written into here that if somebody misses 2 meetings in a row, that they need to be replaced or it's considered a resignation, because this is a short-term, high-intensity group. So if people want to be on it, they have to be able to show up, because that's going to be critical to the success of the group. But I do think more representation it's certainly not going to hurt anything. We're all in a learning phase. And I mean, there's been study after study that shows reasonable people, all given the same information, generally come to a similar conclusion. And usually people come to different conclusions because they don't have information. And that's been shown to us time after time. So to me, if people are volunteering, they're interested, they're engaged, we're all learning, I don't see the harm.
I see Councilor Purcell.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. The reason I brought up the fact that I'd like to have a representative from every ward is because every ward showed up in public comment. Every ward, a person from every ward, including Ward 5, showed up and spoken for the ban. That's the only reason. Thank you. And I completely, 100% agree with Councilor Rivera and Susan Van Pelt. Thank you.
So I'm hearing a proposal to add 1 from every ward. I'm also hearing, could it be 4, 2 from Ward 1, 2 from Ward 2? Is there a middle of the ground that would have a mix of Ward 1, Ward 2, and at-large members? And also, would we want a 6 or 4? Also, is it important to folks to have a counselor on the committee?
I would say, with regards, I'm sorry, Madam Chair. With
Yes.
regards to a counselor being present, I would say assigning one to like being present and attending the meetings, that would be okay, right? But like to have them vote there and then vote on full council, I feel like that's a confusion, right? Whereas like you're voting here and you're voting there, it's kind of like voting twice in a sense. But at the same time, I feel like, in my opinion, because I've sat on CPA before as a counselor and I sat on it when I wasn't a counselor, it throws off the power dynamics at the same time. It makes people believe that the person that's the counselor has more power to get something more accomplished that the whole group is trying to get accomplished than they really know that they can. And I witnessed that at CPA when before I was a counselor and Counselor Sullivan was a counselor, everyone relied on Counselor Sullivan to make sure that Counselor Sullivan got it passed or whatever it was. And that's great that he was able to do that, but I feel like that took away from the dynamics of the group, from being able to kind of like have the hashing in and doing all the other things. So for me, it's like, yes, you can be present or assign someone, but at the same time, having the dynamic be thrown off if it feels that way. Because imagine if it was this whole 100 Water Street thing, that situation that came up when we did have the ad hoc committee and there was a counselor present on that committee and that counselor might have been in favor of the data center and there's a whole bunch of people that are not. That might throw off the whole group dynamic of who might be more brave to say something and not want to like shy and be in the corner and say, you know what, I have my opinions, but I'm not going to say nothing because the counselor's here. You know what I'm saying? Because that does happen and I've witnessed it. So I wouldn't be against it. I just wouldn't, I don't think that it would help the dynamics if they had like voting power or they had like any authority within that group, if that makes sense.
It's not important to me that there's a counselor in this group because I feel like they're in the end presenting to council, and also because it's a committee itself that will be following open meeting law. Any of us, if we want to do the work, can attend the meetings or can watch them afterwards. So there's nothing to say that a city councilor could not attend but I don't feel like we need to name a representative who would effectively be empowered to speak for council there.
Right.
So I'm happy not to have a counselor on the committee, is what I'm
okay with that too as well.
So if we don't have a counselor in the committee, we have 5 members then from departments and commissions and 1 from our local computing center. So then what would it look like to have community members? Would we have, yes, I'm sorry, Counselor, Counselor Horan, Mr. Horan.
Madam Chair, thank you. So having chaired these kinds of efforts before and tried to create reports out of it, I think it might be helpful for your committee to consider is this a fact-finding report? Is it a deliberative body that comes to you and says, I think we want a data center here, or I don't think we want a data center here? It seems like the council is a deliberative body. I have to say, representation is hugely important. Transparency is hugely important. I mean, the community has to be engaged in this. But there are also other ways. You could, for instance, make this committee go out and have sessions with the public in each ward and have input before its final report is done, much like the comprehensive planning effort. So there are options for you to consider. Again, the representation is absolutely crucial, and it has to come from every ward, and transparency is crucial. But you want this committee to be able to produce a report that gives you some answers. So I just, if you can provide some of that guidance because otherwise it's going to be very hard for this committee to come up with what the report looks like, just respectfully.
Yes, Mr. Goodman.
First, I'll say I have opinions, but there are 6 city councilors here, so I'm afraid to express them. But I'll give it a try. I wanted to second what you said. It feels like, in the conversation about Jeff as well, having somebody who can guide the committee to make sure that we produce something that's meaningful for the council and well-balanced would help a lot. Whether they're on the committee or not, I don't think it matters, but a city council mentor maybe.
Thank you. Tessa Murphy-Rumboletti has joined us. Council President, if you want to speak.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've been watching the meeting and wasn't really gonna join, but I recognize that this is my order, and so I am just here since, real talk, this was my idea, and I watched the way that people talked about it at the last between the subcommittee meeting and then the full council. And so I guess the reason why I'm raising my hand and trying to contribute to the conversation is just the original purpose of the order. Because I think people forget, or they just think I have ulterior motives, but the intent of the ad hoc committee, whatever it becomes, it wasn't to predetermine an outcome. It wasn't to ask people to tell us what I want to hear or what someone else wants to hear. And also just to defend my own reputation. It wasn't a power grab. It doesn't seem like anyone has issues when I'm asked to appoint counselors to every other commission that I'm asked to appoint people to. So that wasn't my intent. If you guys don't want the city council president to appoint people and you want the council to do it, that's great. We can do that for every committee that I'm expected to appoint people to be honest. The intent of this committee was really much simpler. It was to gather information, to examine best practices from other communities, to hear from relevant stakeholders in an actual public setting where they know they're invited, and there's real work put into making sure we hear from everyone, and then basically to provide recommendations to the council based on research, facts and not emotions, because I recognize that this issue is complex. There's a lot of things it involves land use, energy infrastructure, economic development, environmental considerations. That's why, I didn't appoint someone from a nonprofit. I appointed someone from our conservation. I suggested appointing someone from our conservation commission. I want this to be something that the people who are participating don't have an end result necessarily. I included the computing center in there because there's just a lot of knowledge that they have on the needs of the industry. And I just, maybe it makes me whatever kind of city councilor you think I am, but before making policy decisions, I just think that the council has a responsibility to ensure that we have non-biased information presented in front of us, right? And that may look like we don't permit anything and everything is required a special permit by the city council. I saw that the purpose of this would be more fact-finding and a reporting committee. I don't expect people to tell us what to do, but the role would be to study the issue, obviously identify opportunities, concerns, review any kind of approaches that are taken in other municipalities, and then just provide some kind of recommendations for the council's consideration, because I do think that Holyoke is unique in the fact that we have our own municipal utility system. We have the waterworks. That's why I take a lot of issue with the sentiment that was provided, that this was something I was trying to do to drive a conversation a certain way. So I'm glad to see that one member from the gas and electric as designated by its director. I never thought otherwise, but it's great to have it in committee. But just at the end of the day, this is a huge industry. And I think the more information that we have, the better equipped we are to make decisions. And so that was my intent with filing it. I didn't have crazy ulterior motives. It's not a power grab. If anyone remembers correctly, I didn't ask to be the president. So I do take some issue with the sentiment that was shared at past meetings. But if you guys want a ward representative from every ward, that's fine. In my opinion, a 17-person commission is not always super helpful, but whatever you guys want to do, I'm not going to fight it. Do what you want. I was just trying to make this an educated conversation without emotions and just take things into it. But everyone's made their points super clear. So that's what you'll get from me, and you guys do what you want to do. Thanks so much.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm wondering, so if we have 5 members from departments and commissions and 1 from our local computing center, would it make sense to have an odd number of 11 in total, 5 community reps, 1 from Ward 1, 1 from Ward 2, and 3 at large? Does that get at the spirit of what you're hoping for, Councilor Rivera, and also you, Councilor Purcell?
I would say no. But
would you like 2 from Ward 1, 2 from Ward 2, and 1 at large?
I would argue, and again, to answer Mr. Manzi's question from earlier, the reason why Ward 1 and Ward 2 keep being brought up is because most data centers will be expected to be housed probably in the industrial districts until things change or until they figure things out, or if this committee that is being put together will be able to design something. And this is why I feel like representation from Ward 1 and Ward 2 makes sense, because if people from Ward 1 and Ward 2 agree to it, then it's okay. It's what is agreed to. If people from Ward 1 and Ward 2 don't have a say-so on whether or not it's okay, for me, it's not fair representation whether we believe people are educated enough to know that or not. But yeah, that's why Ward 1 and Ward 2 keep being brought up. That's why all cannabis is in Ward 1 and Ward 2 only. So there's a lot of things that weigh on that particular community. It could seem like, for me, at least on my end, it could be something that's coming off as emotional, but like historically, if you look at how things have just come off throughout just the fires that happened in the flats in South Holyoke in the 80s, there's a lot of historical context that comes to how those particular communities have been just ignored. And not to say that any of us have done that. I'm just saying in general. So for me, just to have one from Ward 1 and one from Ward 2 and 3 at large, those 3 at large will probably be Ward 7 members or Ward 6 members. It's the same as the makeup of the council. I've said it before. It took someone like myself or Jose to win at large almost 20 years. This is part of the reason why I'm arguing what I'm arguing. But again, I may not be educated enough on data center stuff or any of that stuff, but I do know people, and I do know my people in Ward 1 and Ward 2. And for me, whether I win again or whether I run again, doesn't matter. I think these last year and a half that I'm here, I'm going to try to advocate as much as I can for these communities and make sure that Springdale gets done, make sure that Bonham Field gets the love it's supposed to get, make sure that Main Street gets the love it's supposed to get, and that the businesses and the people in these neighborhoods get the fair representation as they should while I'm here. But to get to this particular point, I think for me, I'm going to stay with 2 from 2 and 2 and 1. 2 is big enough. Ward 2 and Ward 1 is big enough. We had 2 people from each board come forward and speak at the council that day too as well. I would also entertain, if it does make it difficult to make quorum, I fully understand that. But I think for me, it's what is the intent here? Is it just data gathering, or is it data gathering and community engagement? Because those are 2 different things, right? If we're just getting data to just have data, we can ask that from people and get that data and then analyze it. But if we're trying to engage community at the same time while we're gathering data and teach the community or work with the community on gathering this data, if that's not what we're trying to do, then my bad, I digress. But the reality is there's a lot that always goes on in this community where it feels like, and I'm not saying that it's one intentional person or a body, but like, there are things that go on and it just goes as routine and it continues to happen. That's it. Thank you.
I see Councillor Thalheimer and then Councillor Panich.
Sorry, we're down one mic. I'm inclined to agree with Councillor Rivera for a couple of points here. One, I think we can all pretty much clearly agree that he's not wrong when he talks about these things will likely be sited in industrial areas. And when we talk about that, we are talking about wards 1 and 2. 2, we speak often about wards 1 and 2 being disproportionately not represented in governmental matters, and this is an opportunity, it seems clear to me, to correct that and offer the opportunity. And 3, we keep talking about the concern about quorum, but I want to push back on the assumption that the difficulty in achieving quorum will come from community members. As we saw from our public comment and other outreach around this, the community is very invested in this, and this seems like an opportunity to make real all the things we keep talking about wanting to do. So I would be in favor of shifting it to make sure that we have 2 from Ward 1, 2 from Ward 2, and whether that's 1 at large or 3 at large or whatever, I feel like if we're going to weight this in any particular way, it should be of equal measure between city entities and members of the public, of the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Panich?
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to be idealistic here. I mean, I understand the concern about having a body that can work. And I really, at this point, I want to say to the City Council President that her efforts are appreciated and were. And I think that most of us do understand that what she was trying to do was create a body from which we could learn what we need in order to get to the aim of this procedure, which was always in my mind to give us the time and space that we had to come up with a rational, informed approach to data centers rather than being at the mercy of whoever came in here before we had any regulation or any halt to the process. I was very worried at the end because the state timeline is what it is, and we would have had problems if we had not succeeded in passing something. Fortunately, and I am grateful for everybody who came through in the end, we did. But now we have an opportunity to do two things at once. And the two things are gather the professional information we need to make rational decisions about this, and be completely transparent to the community so that we have people who are bringing our concerns about, things that somehow just happen and no one in the community knows how and why, and just shed a whole lot of sunlight and make sure that people have their voices heard. So I think this is, I don't want to pretend that it's going to be easy. It would be easier to just say, look, we're going to have all of the professionals and maybe we'll have a budget for outside consultants if we turn out to need to know precisely how a contemporary new chip is working. But I think that what we have learned in the past month or two is that we don't need to do that, and that it can be poisonous to do that. And if we have everybody in the room, and if we make a real collective effort to keep our minds on what we need to do as a group, let's make this work. Let's be a model for the nation. We say Holyoke punches above its weight. We say that Holyoke is unusual because it remains a community, even now in a kind of atomized age. I think that's true, and I think this is an opportunity to do it. So I want to thank our chair for doing the work to get us here. I want to thank our city council president. I don't think that we meant to make her as unhappy as we have. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to whoever's next in line.
Which is Councillor Bacon. And then Councillor Purcell.
So I think we should have, as a practical matter, an uneven number of members on the committee. And then as another practical matter, whatever wards are not represented by whoever is appointed, then have a specific outreach meeting relative to the report that will be coming from the group in the ward that is not represented. Because the reality is, the infrastructure of our city is what it is. We've all inherited it, and those huge mill buildings are where they were built. None of us have any control over where they exist. But we do have to try to work with the infrastructure that we have. So my concern is more that the entire city be aware and that the process is transparent than I am specifically concerned with who is sitting on the committee. Because I think the process is more important than the names of the people sitting in the room. But I do think it's important because a data center, like any other thing, even if it's situated in one part of the city, affects the entire city, depending what we learn. We may find those impacts are much less than we fear they are. We may find they're somewhere in between what the fear level is and reality. We just really don't know. But whatever it is will affect the entire city. And the entire city is invested through our taxes in supporting all the rest of the city. So the process matters, who's on it. I say whoever wants to be on it, and if people feel strongly about certain areas being represented more intensely and people want to do it, I say bless their heart. But I just want to make sure, and like as a ward counselor myself, I would host the meeting out in the ward. But this stuff's going to move quick. I mean, you think a year's a long time, but it's going to go like nothing. Mm-hmm. So that means in 6-7 months, you got to be out in the wards talking to the people about whatever the information is in order for it to come back and then be able to have a report. It's going to move quickly. But I think that would be the only point I would make, to make sure everybody's informed. Other than that, the people who want to do it are the best people to do it, right?
Just because I just want to paraphrase what I think I'm hearing. So I think it is a question around, are we expecting this body to gather information and recommend that to council, or are we expecting them to share information to the public and get their opinions? And my thinking is that we are asking them to do the first and not the second. I think it's a lot to ask a volunteer group who's doing fact-finding and research and recommendations to also be in charge of sharing that information to the public. I think that's our job as counselors. I think that we are elected to represent our constituencies in the entire city. And I think it's really important that we have a robust public process. There's nothing that stops us as city councilors from having board meetings, which many of us do, in order to share information. There is nothing that means that we could not take the recommendations and the report and decide that we want to do a series of ward meetings across the city, or to do them in central locations like the public library. But I do think that that falls to us and not to this committee. I think that is too much to ask of a group that is volunteering their time. And so I don't know if that is resonating or true for everyone here, but that is where I'm at.
Clarify, Madam Chair, because
Sure.
I think you're misinterpreting my intention, which was that the people in the other wards that aren't serving on the commission would have opportunity for input into this gathering process. I'm not saying this group should be going out doing community education. That was not.
But that, for example, we could make sure that any ward that doesn't have someone representing them, we would make sure that we're sharing when their meetings are in case folks want to attend, because they will be public meetings. They will be open to the public. Is that what you're saying?
Well, what I'm saying is if we're going to stay very narrow and say the group is simply data gathering, then I totally agree with you. If, on the other hand, we are doing a two-pronged thing, which is data gathering and hearing from the people who will be affected, which I maintain is the entire city, by future intensive developments of any sort, and we're seeking input from residents, if we're going to intensify the membership, then I think there should also be a method by which the people from the other, it could be the ward counselor that accomplishes that role, but I think there should be something in here that says, yeah, have two from wards 1 and wards 2, but make sure you also get input from all of the wards in some fashion. That's all. If that is the second prong of what we want to do. If we just want to be data gathering, that's a very narrow focus, and, it's a whole different thing from my perspective.
Based
Similar to
on
what Councilor Rivera said.
my apologies. Yes. So in the scope of work, it names that they are studying and providing an analysis of the potential impacts of commercial data center developments in Holyoke, and it names a number of potential impacts. And then it says, and make recommendations to the city council regarding potential zoning and permitting requirements. So that's the scope of work that's outlined here. I see we have Councilor Purcell and Devine in the queue, and then also Thalheimer. Councilor Purcell? If you're speaking, you may be muted. Okay. Okay.
I apologize. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I'm sorry. I thought I had muted myself. First of all, if Ward 1 and Ward 2 aren't represented, then I don't want any ward to be represented. That's just, it's got to be Ward 1 and it has to be Ward 2. It doesn't matter what the rest of the city wants, because they're the ones that are going to be affected by this directly. The reason I said all 7 wards is because of some of the professional speakers that came from public comment. Now, and that doesn't mean that there's going to be 7 volunteers that are going to step up from each ward of the 7 wards. That doesn't mean that's going to happen. There's no guarantees in this carnival world. But I would like that, and if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. As long as Ward 1 and Ward 2 are represented, that's the most important part to me. Except for maybe Ward 4. Okay, Ward 4 is, I show differential to. That's the only one. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you for the laugh. So for, if I could just, respond to Councilor Purcell. So again, because I'm trying to figure out balancing representation and functionality. If we have 2 from Ward 1 and 2 for Ward 2, is it okay for us to have 3 at large? Knowing that we may not get to every ward, that's okay. We're privileging folks from Ward 1 and Ward 2. Does that sound okay to you? Okay.
Yes. As long as Ward 1 and Ward 2 are represented. That's, to me, that's the bottom line. That's gotta happen.
Okay, Councilor Devine and then Talheimer.
I just want to explain why I kind of got a little upset with Izzy. I definitely understand where he's coming from. I just want to explain, when I was growing up, Ward 4 was completely different than where it is now. Right over here by City Hall, down Dwight Street, on Elm Street, it stopped. And I'm not sure if it was Mayor Topia or Mayor Resnick who created something called urban renewal. And all the people that lived in the blocks on Walnut Street, which are no longer there, worked in the factories, that type of stuff. And they had to leave their houses. They had to leave their blocks and find other housing, kind of just like what you're saying here. And all I'm saying is that was Ward 4, which is now Ward 1. Where I'm pointing to. And urban renewal is what brought us Colby Drive and all that other stuff. So that's all I'm saying is the wards were different back then, when I was a pilgrim. So it was different. It was just different, that's all.
Thank you. And I want to name, we've been joined by Councilor Anderson Burgos and Councilor Mason online. Thank you for joining us. Councilor Talheimer?
Okay, in brief, I would be fine if we did 3 at-large counselors, provided that they didn't, that they weren't all from the same ward. Like, my preference would be to get as much ward representation as we could.
Under this current plan, we would be electing them. So this would be that's what we have right now, is that these folks are not decided by the president, that they're elected. It says community members as appointed by the city council shall be appointed by a majority vote of the city council.
Okay. My preference is still to have as wide representation as possible.
Yeah.
To that end. And 2, these are public meetings. All of these are going to be public meetings that are noticed, and people are able to come and participate and discuss on all those good things. So if someone is not on the committee, they can still follow the progress of this and still stay informed and still get in touch and be engaged with the process. It isn't like coming into a meeting and then going out and having a ward meeting and then coming back and doing all this stuff. Like, it is the same as any other city council or any other entity with ample means for public participation.
Yes.
Okay, great. Just establishing that. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Mr. Goodhue and then Ms. Burns.
I know a lot about technology. I don't know anything about this process. I'm totally clueless. But I would pick up on Councilor Vake and also Councilor Rivera's notion of engagement. It would be scary and dangerous if this committee went off in silence for 6 months to a year and gathered facts, because we've even seen in the media now people make stuff up. Some of it's right, some of it's wrong. So I'd be super curious, maybe offline, to hear Councilor Rivera's ideas about how you have engagement beyond just having more or less people on the committee.
That's easy for me, if I may, through the chair.
Yes, please.
With regards to safety, I get death threats. I get a bunch all the time, bro. And I don't got no cops walking near me. Half of them probably don't like me. So the reality is, I'm out there exposed all day, every day, just regards to safety, just so you know. And so are the residents that live in the communities, that you see all the stuff that's happening in the news and all this stuff. They see it and they witness it on a daily basis, and they got no choice. But aside from that, you let me know, and we can go to the flats, we can go to South Holyoke, we can go into the inner boroughs, the alleyways, and we good. like on my end, we're good. We can go anywhere we want and try to get the community engaged, inform them. I can do events at Carlos Vega Park if you want. That way we're informing people. You can set up a little table and talk to them and let them know what it is that's happening at that location. They probably walk by on a regular basis because you can't drive by it anymore because the street's blocked. I know from first-hand experience. The same with the Flats community. There are various events that happen. Actually, I am the co-founder with the annual community dinner that they're going on, 10 years now at Kelly School. It's not that far from the data center. Technically, they serve meals to about over 300 families. So again, those are different events that happen in these wards. Just the other day, they had Noche de San Juan at Carlos Vega Park. They probably had like 200 families there. Like it's not a heavy lift with regards to that. And I would say that when these events, they're heavily populated, to be honest. So safety-wise, some of the members, I would say that if you guys are gonna have to follow the same quorum rules, which means that if you're all in the same space and you create a quorum, then you have to be careful what you talk about. But you guys would all be welcome to join in all these events that will happen. And these will be perfect events to kind of like draw from the community. And that's just summer. When you come fall and winter, there's more that come on. There's Christmas gifts. There's Three Kings events. There's a variety of different events that are either Enlace, Nueva de Esperanzas, the Boys and Girls Club, the YMCA, Holyoke Housing, Neighbor to Neighbor. There's a variety of different nonprofits, and I understand that we want to make it mostly citywide, but like if you want to engage and connect with the community, there's a lot of them that are doing different work. I actually work for Whitman Properties as well, and there's a lot of tenants that we have. There's different ways to get access to information to tenants too as well, and a lot of the property we own is Ward 1 and Ward 2 too as well. Well, not me, but the company does. So ultimately, there's different ways to do this, and if people reach out to me, I'd be down to do it. I do it for free. There are agencies that make a lot of money to do this quote unquote community engagement work in Holyoke, but yet later on we find out that people are still upset as to how the community engagement happened. But feel free to reach out. I do it for free.
At the risk of being out of order, that it feels like that's an important thing to happen in parallel to the committee, to me personally.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Ms. Burns.
Thank you. I want to, I appreciate all of the discussion that has happened tonight, and I want to reiterate that my concern about enhanced representation of the community is, it seems like it's coming to, or moving into a direction of what that representation looks like, and I want to demonstrate my support for enhanced representation for members of Ward 1 and Ward 2, with 3 members of the community at large serving in this role, and then echoing what Councillor how do you say?
It's Tallheimer?
Tallheimer, thank you.
It's harder to spell.
Yeah, but I think the reminder that these would be public meetings, like, would allow for members of the whole community to be able to voice their concerns.
Can I ask us to look at the legal language that I have drafted on the board? So first, I think what I'm hearing is consensus around, hold on, not 5. 7. 7 community members as appointed by City Council, and that would mean including 2 from Ward 1, 2 from Ward 2, and 3 at large.
Madam Chair, real quick.
Yeah.
With regards to the 3, I just, real quick, because I just want to be clear, like, I was never against the president selecting somebody if we were expanding it and having more people. Like, you get what I'm saying? So like I see that how that got kind of eliminated, and I just want to say that, like,
I think the goal is to be as transparent as possible, but I do agree that it is also very hard for folks to put their names forward if they feel like it's a public setting where they could quote win or lose, right? Be chosen or not.
So if and I say this, that if there's 4 seats for Ward 1 and Ward 2, I would not be against the president like entertaining a seat 2 as well. It's not, and I wasn't against it in the beginning from the first place, just to be honest. It's just that I know that I would, if that's the case, I would want to add a couple more seats. That was my argument.
So you're arguing that we say 7 community members as appointed by the city council president,
7 appointed by, as long as they're from Ward,
including 2 from Ward 1, 2
Yeah.
from Ward 2, and 3 from
we
any
still
ward.
would have to conform it. We would still have to confirm it. Yes or no?
It depends on what you're recommending. We're drafting that now.
If
We don't have to. It depends on the process that we think
Okay.
is the functional, representative,
yeah.
transparent, right?
So, because when I made the amendment, I wanted to add 2, right? Like, I was okay with bullet 7. I wanted to add to a bullet 8 to add the other ones. I never said to extract, like, that was not my recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
Mine was to add 2. And it doesn't have to be that way. I don't care. It doesn't have to be how I say it. I just want to clarify what.
So the reason why I was leaning towards, if it feels very important, and I agree that it does, to have 2 from Ward 1 and 2 from Ward 2, then just, it's a 13-member body is more functional
No, I have no.
than the one that's larger.
That's
So
not-
just trying to find the
Yeah,
right
no,
balance.
I'm with you on that. I just want to be clear, like, with regards to, like, the president piece. Like, I was just trying to add 2, if that makes sense, right? You can still have those 2 community members, the 3 community members, if that's the approach we're going to take. But
Well, I was hearing also what other members said, that they also want to balance from across other wards as well.
that makes sense. I'm not against any of that. None of that.
My question is, see in yellow, so initially, because we had been hearing from folks, we really want to make sure that there is folks with community health or scientific background. So I was trying to name that there. Is that important to include or not?
To me, what does that mean? Because to someone that may be that you hire a nurse or a doctor, or to someone that may be that you hire a social worker that has been working with people that have impact and have traumatic experiences with that. It could be the same with Waterworks, oil, gas, and electric. I'm not sure your background, sir, but like, it doesn't guarantee that you fully know everything that's happening. Any representative that they sent doesn't necessarily mean that. So I guess for me is, we might have to define that. What does that mean? At least for me.
Or is it important to name, or is it just something that we're saying clearly in the, if, again, it depends too on if we're saying that we want this to be appointed by the president, or if we want it to be an elected process. Councillor Bacon, I see your hand.
Thank you. So I don't believe we should stipulate credentials and criteria for the members that are community members. We can seek people that have certain interest and knowledge, but to make one rule for one member that they have to have this or that, I just think I believe in the KISS theory. Keep it simple.
I'm seeing
Let
some
the
heads
people who are
nodding.
interested come forth and participate, and if expertise is needed with all the variety of people we have there, I think they can find it to bring into the room. So,
I'm okay with removing it. Are other members of the committee okay with removing it?
yeah, I am.
Councillor Penich?
No, I'm sorry, I missed your actual last question.
Are we removing the language in yellow?
No. I think that we do need the public health.
We have the Board of Health.
We added in one member from the Board of Health or the Health Commission.
Okay.
So I don't know if that
Yeah, no, that addresses my
making
concern.
sure it exists. Hopefully there are other members
Yeah.
from the community members who also have that background, but
Yeah, no, I was going to make a suggestion in another direction entirely, which is that if we give the committee the right, which I think is already implied, to write their own rules, they could also designate subcommittees. This is a big enough body that a subcommittee to investigate one specific aspect or the technical aspects of the overall project, as long as the subcommittee meetings remained open to any member of the committee who wanted to attend, would perhaps address some of the concerns about size and unwieldiness. And that was really all.
Okay, so I've changed 9 to 13 and committee members to 7 as appointed by the city council, or do we want it to be appointed by the city council president? Do we want this to be by election or not?
Your order says city council president.
And I think it should be the president. I think it should be simple. I don't think it should be made like an election process for people who want to volunteer to be on an ad hoc committee. I just think it's making it way too intense.
Okay. So changing that to as appointed by the city council president. And then down below, there's a section then that we need to change around elections. Where is that?
See.
Okay. All right. Are there questions or concerns about this line? It came up earlier around a community member of the committee may be removed by majority vote.
I say scratch.
Is that something that we want to remove, or do we want to name, for example, at cause or after missing an X number of meetings? Councilor Telheimer?
If the city council is not involved in the appointing, why don't we change the language to match like any community member that, why don't we just get rid of it? I mean, what do we do with other commissions when we get into issues like this?
We don't meet because we don't have quorum.
Okay, but are committee members removed, or do they, can you put in an attendance clause? Do we have to? I mean,
one would hope that we would not run into quorum issues, but this line is in here for that. That is why this line is here.
May I?
Yes.
Is the goal to vote on this tonight, or are we going to eventually table this and take it up again in August?
It's the will of the body. I would love to be able to move it forward if we can, but if we can't, we can't. But yeah, this is how the sausage is made, you know? Like, I created a draft so I could bring it to the committee, and then we need to hear from us and decide how we want to change
I
things.
think I have a simple fix for the quorum issue.
Yes, Councilor Bacon?
So my suggestion would be that the committee, whoever is appointed, if they're running into a quorum problem, they go to the president and they say, we need a new appointee because we're having a problem with the quorum. Because we've had commissions held up for months because of that.
Yes.
We don't want this held up. We want it to move. So they'll let us know if they have a problem. President will fix it. Right?
So any committee member that may be replaced by...
On request of the committee. And the committee's going to decide by majority. Which I agree with Ms. Van Pelt, who said it should be of the body.
So any community member of the committee may be replaced upon request of the committee. No, that doesn't make sense grammatically. Sorry. The by makes it sound like it's the person doing it. Any community member of the committee may be replaced upon request of the committee.
A majority of. Because, I mean, who's the committee? It's got to be.
Yes? Does it satisfy? Okay. Over here, I like Councilor Bacon's suggestion that in front of potential impacts, we add the current and potential impacts.
Do you want an official motion for these changes?
In the end, we will, yeah. Again, and if it's moving forward. Okay, and then there was only one other change that I had mentioned. Let me look at the doc as a whole.
The admin assist. That's critical, I think, to the success of the committee.
Okay. No meetings of the committee can conflict with city council or city council subcommittee meetings. Yes, Councilor Telheimer?
Sorry. Could we put in some kind of condition about how frequently this committee might meet? Because if this committee meets like twice a month, that's going to be a pretty serious drain on Jeffrey as a human being and also as a resource of a person who makes notes for lots of things.
And also for myself, who I'm involved in a lot of different groups and boards. So yes, I agree with that strongly.
Thank you. So the committee will be supported by the city council assistant. The committee may meet up to twice monthly.
Yes. May I?
Mm-hmm.
I do also just want to name that we just gave him a whole bunch more extra work.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. Temporarily, but it's a 2-year thing. Or okay, a 1-year thing, but also
It will go to council in August. The boards will have 30 days to create it, which means that it would be created and would function from September until June.
okay. Just want to name it as a working person. This is extra work for a human who is not receiving extra compensation for the extra work that we are just assigning him. That's all I want to put out there.
Fair. Ms. Burns?
Could members of the community support the members of the community who are elected into that ad hoc committee support the administrative work, or is there like special permissions that only the administrative assistant is able to do when it comes to the official process for how things work? This is my first investigation into the City of Holyoke City Council meetings, and so I'd like to know the process and be able to respect it.
It really depends based on the committee. So, for example, I initially started to get involved in government work because the CPA committee couldn't get their notes written. And so I just started showing up to meetings and being like, I can write your notes. I'm good at note taking. I took their notes for 2 years. Before this, someone was like, there's an opening on the committee. Do you want to be on it? Sounds like this would be a good fit for you. So for sure, I think the things that would make a lot of sense, and you'll notice it does say that officers can be chosen. And I wonder if it might make sense, given what we are asking for. It says the committee may select one of its members to serve as a chairperson and may elect other officers as it deems appropriate. We also could name specifically in here, they may select one of their, members to shall instead of may. Shall select one of its members to serve as chairperson and one to serve as secretary. So that the expectation is not that Jeffrey is required to be taking their minutes. Yes, Councilor Bacon?
Thank you. So we've had ad hoc committees of the city council in the past. It's part of that role to support those. This is a very important part of the work of the group, is the minutes and the transparency and the timely posting of the minutes. And I'm not saying another person can't do it, but it is a unique skill set. In many of the groups I've been involved with, secretary is the most difficult role to get anybody to do. So I just caution the group, because it is generally not something people want to do, but if we are fortunate enough and the group has somebody that can and will, certainly there'd be no violation in it, as long as we're meeting the open meeting law, because this is a subcommittee of the city council. Whether we put a city councilor on it as a member or not, and the city council is obligated to meet the open meeting law. So that's just my cautionary note.
I do hear you. I will say that the things that I am imagining Jeffrey would do are things like making sure that meetings are posted, supporting the very basics that are required in order to meet open meeting law in terms of making sure that meetings are posted in a timely manner to the city website. Like, those are the kinds of things that I think that Jeffrey would be able to do. Initially, maybe just helping your group know when you're meeting and forming emails and getting initial communication structures going. The goal, of course, as the chairperson is named, that person would then be taking over, naming when meetings is and communicating to Jeffrey so that those things can be posted, right? So the goal is not that Jeffrey would be, de facto chairing it. That's not at all.
No.
It's just that there needs to be a point person who is supporting the committee in the most basic as a liaison to the city. Yes?
Thank you. I'm just wondering, based on your experience with the CPA committee, if you would consider a member or a volunteer from the public appointed by the committee? That's essentially what you were. And that might involve an additional community member who doesn't want to take on the role of learning everything that the committee is learning and taking votes on it and being subject to lobbying and all of that, but they might be willing just to be the note taker.
It would not bother me at all, and I don't mind naming that here, as long as it's clear that, for example, it names that, these are votes that are being taken in committee. But as a result, minutes also have to be approved by the group. Okay. I see Councilor Anderson Burgos' hand up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I want to make sure that I'm hearing correctly that the city council administrator will not be taking meeting minutes, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure, because as someone who sees the amount of work, and when I say see, I mean I see the amount of work that is being done, that's going to break a person. And I know that he can't advocate for himself, but as an elected official and the husband, I will tell you that's too much. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, so I'm just going to name the language, and then I'll hear what other folks have to say if this is it or not. So the new E is, the committee shall select one of its members to serve as a chairperson and may elect such other officers as it deems appropriate. The committee shall select one of its members or a member of the public to serve as a secretary. All minutes must be approved by a majority of the committee. Yes?
You have to say it's a non-voting. If they're picking somebody from the public that's volunteering to be the secretary.
Perfect. Added. Any other thoughts or concerns? Yes, Mr. Haran.
Just for Jeffrey's expectations, for instance, the Whiting Reservoir Committee, Jeffrey helped us a great deal, but he didn't attend our meetings. So
No.
that's another understanding. Again, would it be helpful to have Jeffrey? Yeah, he's a super capable guy, and this commission would benefit from a staff person, which, but it's just something you guys just should lay it out. Is the expectation for him to be there every time or not?
No, I don't think the expectation is there every time. I'm absolutely imagining that, again, like I said earlier, this is more about logistics and supporting as a liaison to the city in terms of basics that are needed around getting, potentially a video to public media or posting things to the city website.
Is there any other department that could provide a staff person?
Honestly, we'd have to ask the mayor. All right, every department is staffed and is, managed by the executive. And so it is certainly a question for the mayor if they want to support staffing for this committee.
Right, but it's a city council committee, so it's really outside of the mayor.
Sure.
Yeah. But he could choose to.
Again, the
If he wants
committee, if they have to make copies, things like that, there's no budget. I don't want to open up too much because I hope you guys get this done
That would be
tonight
Jeffrey.
because the clock's ticking, but
Jeffrey would do the copies.
Mm-hmm.
It's a city council committee.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions, suggestions? Okay, hearing none, I'll make a motion to accept the language as amended and move it with our approval to council for the creation of a data center study committee. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Under discussion?
I think we've discussed enough.
Okay. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. And thank you, everyone, for rolling up their sleeves and doing this work with us. Much appreciated. Okay.
Motion to take up item 6?
Can we take a brief, like 2-minute recess, just so folks can grab water, go to the bathroom if they need to, and then we'll run back into the next agenda items. Thank you. We'll take a 2 minutes recess.
Come on, I gotta get to my... It's your birthday.
Happy birthday! Oh no! Aye. Okay. Item 6, and oh my goodness, Mr. Gorelli. I'm so sorry, this took so long to get through the last order. This is from Divine and McGrath-Smith. Order that the fines be increased for illegal dumping, especially construction equipment and garbage on a sidewalk or street that has not been recycled. The word rubbish shall mean solid waste consisting of both combustible and non-combustible waste, such as plastic, wrappings, newsprint, cardboard, tin cans, yard clippings, leaves, grass, plastics, as in nip bottles, and bedding. And I'm hoping Solicitor Bissonnette is with us as well. And I sent this earlier, and I'd love to understand more. So when I went digging on this topic, I went into Municode and found our current fine structure. But then I also found that in 2016, we had asked for and received approval from the state for a much more stringent illegal dumping ordinance. And so it raised questions for me around which one are we currently following and what that all means. Mr. Gorelli, would you mind giving us a brief overview of the policy as you're currently enacting it out of your office?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Currently, we do not enforce illegal dumping out of the Board of Health. We don't really have the resources to do that. We treat all refuse unless there is stone cold proof of illegal dumping, in which case we would forward that to the police department. But we treat refuse on a property as the property owner's responsibility, again, unless there's a rare circumstance where there's pretty good evidence of somebody who did violate, who could be identified.
Thank you. Mr. Bissonnette? Are you with us?
Yes, I am. Good evening.
Good evening. So I had sent to you earlier what I found in the 2016 language, which has a very different enforcement structure, and also names that the fine says shall be punished by a fine of not less than 5,000, nor more than 10,000, or by imprisonment in the house of correction for not more than 7 days, or by both such fine and imprisonment. A person found responsible in a civil action for a violation of said section 1 shall be required to pay a civil penalty of 3 times the amount, up to a maximum of 5,000, estimated or actually paid by the city to remove the dump material from the property. The court may also issue other orders and injunctions to remedy the circumstances of each case. I'd love to understand, it says approved August 12th, 2016. I just love to understand what this means for us. And also when I look in Municode, I don't see this 2016 language. I see the language that says it's $300.
Probably adopted act.
The truth is, the first time I saw this was today, when you sent it to me. I was unaware that the city had adopted a home rule petition back in 2016, because the language in this petition, which was approved by the legislature and signed by the governor, completely contradicts the one that's in our ordinance book. So we'd have to go back and take a look at the origins of the ordinance. I've noted in other cases, historical commission, the adoption of the sewer rate, that state action often happens differently than what we find in local ordinances, where sometimes a state statute is adopted, accepted by the council, but then there's no follow-up implementation via ordinance. So sometimes that's a problem. In this case, I simply do not know why this state law that was sent by home rule petition would not have been substituted. The state law, in fact, would overrule the ordinance, and it would have been sent down by the city council. So it's somewhat of a mystery why they would have changed their own ordinance when seeking a home rule petition to do so.
Thank you. Mr. Gorelli, do you have any other thoughts around, out of your office, what you think would be important for you to see in our ordinances concerning illegal dumping? Oh, if you are talking, I believe you're muted.
Sorry about that. Typically, our investigations are pretty cut and dry. Most of our laws are either assigned, enforcements are assigned to a permit or to a parcel. So for instance, housing, if we go to an apartment, there are violations in the apartment. Typically it is the owner's responsibility, or in rarer cases, the occupant's responsibility, but assigning that blame is not very difficult. If we were going to take on illegal dumping at the Board of Health, I really think we would also need to figure out some way to get cameras out into the common dumping areas, which may require permission of any private property that the cameras oversee, which certain residents may be for or not really as comfortable with. But aside from that, I think identifying violators would be difficult, the illegal dumpers, without some sort of surveillance where we see a truck pull up with a couch and a mattress in the back, get the license plate, see it pull out without the mattress and the couch.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Bissonnette, right now, 'cause, sometimes, of course, we see these, the mayor will post something around this person, and we'll have identifying information about them. Clearly, it's been caught on camera by license plate or some other identifying factor who this person is, has been, caught legal dumping. When that happens, is the city pursuing action against that person using what's currently in our ordinances? And is it through the police department? What does that look like?
Well, there are two different methods. One is, as Colton has pointed out, the property owner themselves may be victims of illegal dumping. And that happens quite a bit when you see these pictures of overflowing dumpsters in the alleys or behind buildings that are multi-family dwellings. The other situation is sort of places that are isolated and not generally viewable by the public. Next thing you know, you go behind the building and there's bag upon bag upon bag of trash or construction debris. I'm sure we don't want Colton going around tearing open trash bags, going through looking for envelopes and such. We've done that. We did that in Chicopee because we had two specific places. But without cameras, it's almost impossible to properly enforce. And it's one of the more difficult municipal dilemmas. Sure, you can increase the fines. And I know in the home rule petition, there was a fund, I think, set up. And perhaps if the city wanted to go that way, could use that fund to provide cameras, hire OT enforcement officers, that sort of thing, because the statute allows, Board of Health, police officers, I believe the Department of Public Works.
Yep.
And in some communities, they use, they're not called park police, park rangers, because of the problems with trash in the parks. So those are some of my thoughts on it. It might be appropriate to compare the two, the state law and the ordinance, and decide if you want the higher fine, which the city would be authorized to do, as well as any other enforcement mechanisms.
Yes, I agree. Would you be willing to help us with that if we ended up, I see Councilor Rivera's hand, but would you be willing to help us with that if we ended up tabling this to our August meeting?
Happy to do it.
Okay, thank you. All right, Councilor Rivera?
Yes, I think for me, I have a couple of questions too. I think the camera piece, I'm a little baffled by, just because I don't think we as a community need to put cameras up with regards to that. I think if a property owner has a camera and they're reporting that that's happening and they got it already, then we got it, right? I don't think that it's something that we have to go out and put cameras unless we're protecting our own properties because it's happening on our properties. I think that's a different argument than the person that we're calling up and saying, hey, your dumpster's overflown and we're going to fine you. And they come and they say, I know why. And here's the picture why, or here's a video why. Here's the truck. Here's the license plate, because usually they're looking for the license plate. And if that's happening, right, because I know that's happening. Again, I work at women properties. If that's happening, are we saying that is, even if they come with a picture with a license plate, that's not being pursued? Are we saying that? Either Solicitor Bissonnette or Colton, Mr. Group.
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I can speak to that. If somebody presents us with photo evidence, I can't recall that happening during my time, but we do get a lot of trash complaints, so there might have been something that I didn't hear about that. That would be something that we would forward to the police to investigate as illegal dumping.
But you wouldn't know what happens after that, right? Like we would have to check in with the police to find out if they followed up on that and pursued the issue. Because I think for me, in finding out, is it would be a moot point to either raise the price or lower the price if you forward it to the police and the police don't do nothing about it, or if they're chasing it down and they just like, it doesn't matter whether we bring it up or down, as long as there is, it sounds like there's no real enforcement mechanism aside from us just saying that this is what it costs, right? And I think the unfortunate part for the property owner that's trying to protect themselves and feels like they're paying a significant amount of money on taxes to try to help protect them, right? When you come at them and you say, well, if you don't empty out the dumpster that you have or the trash that you have that got illegally dumped, we're going to fine you. I think, and I'm not saying that's a you thing, that's just a city thing in general. That becomes a complex issue because they're being fined and the money from the fines are not actually going towards trying to catch the people that are doing the issue, right? And the taxes that are being taken out of their businesses, they feel like or not just businesses, property owners, whoever, they feel like it's not being put to work in a way that they would like to see it put to work. So I think for us, the larger issue is how do we make an enforcement that actually works and is effective and functioning in a way that it's self-reliant, right? Because if we're fining people and we're bringing up the fines and the state gave us permission to do so, then there should be a way or a mechanism that those same fines actually go into the policing of these properties and doing that. It might need in the beginning for us to fund it, but once it happens, it's just as it starts. And I'm not saying this has to be a Colton thing or a Board of Health thing, because it sounds like the police needs to be involved because they're the enforcing mechanism. But again, if there is funding somewhere and they're saying that we can put officers to do this, I think the first part to start, believe it or not, would be to hire more enforcement officers that can actually follow through on the reports that Colton and his group are putting forward, if that makes sense. Thank you.
Councillor Penich?
Thank you. I like the idea of being able to do something that at least moves the responsibility toward the immediate victims of this, who are the people who are getting things dumped on them and then have to bear the responsibility for the cleanup. So this might be a bridge too far, but I looked at our ordinances and it appears that we have a bounty hunting paragraph in there.
Well, I'm sorry, what did you say, the last part?
There's a bounty if you effectively are giving information that leads to, illegal dumpers being
snitching?
identified.
In order to do that,
Is snitching allowed?
yeah. Well, yeah, no, if you are going to basically hire privateers to do this for you, you need for the fine to be high enough for it to be worthwhile. And that at least is some argument toward if you want to have people wandering around with cameras. This actually worked really well in New York City to cut down on illegal idling.
So just the language into the record. So right now, our section 74-102, reward for reporting illegal dumping. To discourage further illegal dumping, the city may offer a reward for reporting a violation, which results in either a criminal prosecution or a non-criminal disposition. This amount of the award offered may be up to 50% of the amount of fines levied against the perpetrator, but in any event, no more than $1,000. In the event no fines are levied, a $100 reward may be offered. There's a lot of may in there that makes me wonder how that really would operate in the end. Yes, I see Councillor Bacon.
Thank you. Yeah, so it's an if-then. If we get it, you might get some. But we, in the past, raised the fines. And really, when you have a law that says one of three or all three departments can be the enforcing body, the reality is no one has enforced it. Because it's past the hot potato or lack of staff. But I mean, every single department claims to have a lack of staff, but our departments have more staff now, or as many staff now as they had during COVID, because we never downsized after COVID, except the police department. So in this law, it says the Board of Health, the police department, or the Board of Public Works. So to me, part of our work would have to be to find the right place for the different cubbies of this dumping, because there's many categories of dumping. Which ones should be under which departments? Because right now, we have no departments enforcing it, that I can put my finger on at least. And so I agree that it's pointless to increase the fines. I believe, and I can't remember with specificity, but I think when we adopted the state thing, the goal was to make the higher fines to try to discourage the dumping. But with higher fines and no enforcement, it's really just a feel-good thing. You added paper to the ordinance book. You didn't really affect a change. So I think if Attorney Bissonette said he's willing to do the side-by-side to see what we need to do to clean up the lines of accountability and which one actually is in effect, that would be the best place for us to start first, but that's what I'm seeing. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Panich?
I just wanted to ask whether previous efforts took place before or after everybody in the entire universe had a camera in their pocket. Because, as I said, the model for this, and we're talking about a ghost ordinance that is talking about fines of $5,000 or no more than $10,000. It is worth it to the city to collect those amounts of money. If we can incentivize people roaming around with cameras in their pockets to show up with the evidence that it takes to actually catch the dumpers, give them an incentive not to do it again, because, $5,000 is an incentive to not keep doing it. $100 maybe isn't. But at that point, and I know that it sounds like a giant joke, but in fact, New York City did do this for illegal idling, and people made a bunch of money, and a lot of the illegal idling went away. So, if we've got people out at night anyway and they happen to catch this, by all means, let's find a place for them to report it. And I'm happy to defer that to Attorney Bissonette in August.
Right.
Well, it sounds like we need more information, particularly around the 2016 Act and what happened with that, and whether or not it was adopted by the city but never put in Municode, or whether or not it was somehow never adopted by the city even though we asked the state for it. That's one question that I have, that I hear Mr. Bissonette saying he's willing to do a little bit of digging, and also looking at what the actual state statute is right now, and really sort of understanding what our ordinances even currently right now are, because of course we have been running into some issues around the era of time in which this ordinance would have been created, by the way, where changes were perhaps made and voted on but not then made into Municode. So that is some fact finding, and thank you, Mr. Bissonette, for being willing to dive into that for us. The other part of this, I think, hearing the members of the committee, is potentially even just inviting in the mayor next time we have this conversation around, as the head of the executive, what do you think should be happening around illegal dumping in terms of which departments should be doing enforcement? Where is the capacity for enforcement to exist? I think is another question that's being raised tonight.
Right.
Are there any final words anyone wants to say? Mr. Grelly, is there anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I also wanted to mention that by my reading of the law, the fund established would allow us as the city to remove improperly deposited refuse on a property, so long as they could prove that it wasn't dumped there. When I started with the city, I was a sanitarian one, so I did a lot of ordinance enforcement, and the number of times I heard, well, I didn't put that there. Why do I have to pay to get rid of it? And quite frankly, if I own property in the city and someone dumped on my property and the city official came and said, if you don't remove this, you might get fined, I wouldn't be happy about it either. So I'm sympathetic to that, and I'm happy that you're taking this up. Hopefully we can come to a good solution here.
Yeah.
I did just want to touch also that, a lot of people have ring cams nowadays too. So that's just another source of video evidence. I had mentioned earlier putting cameras up. I was thinking more of the secluded places near vacant buildings with derelict property owners, because those tend to be dumping sites as well. we might not be able to get a property owner to install a camera. In that case, we might be able to use this fund to install one. Just wanted to clarify that. And lastly, excuse me, I lost my train of thought. Oh, I don't believe currently we have any other mechanism to enforce on illegal dumping other than citing a property. So I just, that's why we have in the Board of Health done it the way we have. And if there is evidence of illegal dumping, forward it to the police, because my understanding is that's also a misdemeanor offense. So I just wanted to make that clear. I don't want to seem like we're trying to pass the hot potato here. It's just we don't have the legal authority, from what I understand, to enforce on illegal dumping.
And that's what we hope to get some clarity on. Thank you. The other data point that we need is, have we ever issued any fines under any law?
Okay.
And do we have that fund? Was it ever established? The treasurer's office should be able to tell us that.
Okay. I'm going to make a note of that.
So just, that would help us understand if we have any money, which I kind of doubt. But if I can make a motion to table.
Second
I
that.
don't see we're getting any
Oh,
further
thank you.
tonight.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Motion is made and seconded to table. All those in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Crowley, thank you so much for staying so late and for all the work that you're doing for the city. Really appreciate you.
Of course, thank you all.
Okay. I'll make a motion to take up item 8.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, this is from Councilor Bacon. Order that the city ordinance be amended to combine the Historical Commission and the Local District Commission into one commission as voted by both commissions. This is one of these issues that I think, in light of everything else that came up in ordinance, we haven't had as much time to work on as I had hoped for. I hope folks had a chance to look over the draft ordinances that we had been given last time. And effectively, we have the Springfield version. We also have the Falmouth Historic District option as well. And I'd like just to open it up to questions or concerns or thoughts folks have around moving this process forward.
Well,
I see Councilor Bacon and then Councilor Penich.
So I am first and foremost interested in feedback from the Historical Commission, who I'm
And Mr. Gothier is here online.
hoping have looked at these and have seen if they have a preference, if something seems like, oh, that would work if we just tweak it a little bit, rather than recreating the wheel. Because I think it's great that a couple of communities have done this, and it makes total sense to me. But I would lean heavily on their preferences in this regard.
Councilor Penich, and then we'll open up to hear from hopefully Mr. Gothier.
Yes, I would second Councillor Bacon's statements, but also I wanted to point out that, as best I can tell, we also have a ghost ordinance establishing the Historical Commission, as opposed to the Historic District Commission. It is there on the city website, or at least a description of it is there on the city website. It doesn't look to me as though the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission consultant necessarily found it in Municode. I didn't find it in Municode, and I have looked for it a number of times. And if anybody has actually seen, because it is clear that we did adopt this way back when, the statutory language for the Historic Commission as opposed to the Historic District Commission, I think it would be great to get it.
And I'm sure we can hear from Solicitor Bissonnette as well, but from my understanding, it's because we adopted the state statute, but then did not go beyond that to then draft that into our ordinances. And this has happened many times as we keep running into these issues. Solicitor Bissonnette, do you want to speak to that before we ask Mr. Gothier to speak?
Sure, just procedurally, we haven't been able to determine why that ordinance doesn't exist. One of the theories was that when the district ordinance was adopted, it was put in place of the Holyoke citywide historical commission ordinance. And if that's what happened, it has stayed that way for probably 10, 12 years now. This is a chance to correct that. And I think looking at the options, Springfield has certainly a good template for Holyoke. But I think, and Chris may know this more than me, they have like 30, almost 30 small historical districts.
They're the third largest city.
And so I'm not sure how that impacts merging the two, but it seems to me that it would be much simpler for Holyoke to do it, and certainly Springfield can combine 29 with one and come up with one for 30. We can come up with one for two, I think.
I hope so.
But certainly, I defer to Christopher on what his thoughts are on the various templates.
Okay, yeah, because the two bodies do have different powers officially. And it looks like Springfield actually designates individual buildings. It's an interesting approach.
Mr. Gothier, thank you so much for joining us tonight, as late as it is.
Not a problem. The main issue we have tried to start this process is all because of quorum issues. It has been, with my commission, the Historical Commission, I have not been able to have a meeting now for almost 5 months. And there was also some issues with the local historic district as well, just getting members to join. Yes, we are doing different procedures on a state level, on a town level, and that's when we actually reached out to Shannon at Pioneer Valley Planning with some money that we had left over last year with basically some money that the mayor had given us. And we have just been working with her diligently. It really seems to fall into place. One-stop shopping, one phone call to make for anything historic in nature within the city. I get an email that should be going to local, vice versa. I just feel like to streamline operations has been the biggest hurdle. And again, I am not able to do any business right now with letters of support. There's been some demo delays that are coming up. I don't have a body at this time. And it has been actually for quite some time now, just trying to get that together.
Councillor Bacon?
So, thank you. Is there a model that when you looked at it, we've had a couple of them now before us, that you looked at it and said, this will work?
I actually have been very impressed with Springfield's model. Again, as Mike Bissonette had said, they're very much a larger volume, but I think it would be a start for our city, just basically to follow that procedure. It's,
The structure. You like the structure.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. I mean, I think we really need to get them to be able to function, because right now it's like not even having anything.
No.
Because they just, and this has been a long time now, right?
It's been almost 5 months, I think, for my commission. It is me,
Yeah.
myself, right at this moment.
So my opinion on this is that we should not throw away the good in search of the perfect, and we should make perhaps the Springfield model as simplified as we can, because it's got way too much bulk in it. But if we can carve just down to the bare bones of it, and move it forward, because we could always amend and tweak it down the road if, certain other finer changes need to be made. But if we got at least the basic structure set, you could at least do business, or at least pursue these historic initiatives, which seem completely stalled.
Yeah. No, I had just two basic questions. And the first is, do you foresee finding enough people who are willing to do both parts of this job? Because the local district seems very involved with, can you make a specific change to your property? And here are the enormously complex procedures and manuals and knowledge that the commission at the local level clearly needs just to say, all right, you can make this alteration to your facade. And that seems like a different kind of work from the demo delays and the designation of historic districts. And so my first question would be, as a practical matter, do you think you can find people who can and will do both? Because otherwise we'll just wind up in the same place. And the other one would be, one of the things I noticed when I looked at the state law is that you are able, a historic commission doesn't have to have 5 members, it can have 3. So we might be able to, in the last resort, and I'm not saying this is a first resort, but we might be able to fix your quorum issue just by changing the composition of the body. Drop 2 members, if you have 3 now, you're good to go.
Springfield has 7.
I know Springfield has 7. I was talking about minimums, not.
Yeah, I was just looking at what Falmouth has too. Falmouth has 5.
So if I may, because I don't.
I'm just saying, if we're thinking of leaning into the Springfield model, one change that we might say that we're proposing is not to have 7, but to have 5.
Yeah.
Just naming a difference there. Councillor Bacon?
Right.
We have had conversations with both commissions prior, and both commissions have agreed basically to take on the extra load, combining as one.
Yes.
It would be fruitful for the city. It would just be a very big benefit.
Yes, and I didn't even file the order until after both commissions had debated, discussed, and voted this. So I really think it's on us to move it forward. And I would liken it, I would make the analogy to the planning board. The planning board deals with very specific things about a sign on a building, and on the other hand, deals with broad policy things. So to me, that would be the analogy I would use for the historic combination as well. So, all right, let's move forward on the Springfield model, and we know we can eliminate the 30 because we don't need those.
I have a question about alternate members. I only see the structure used by Planning Board and Historic Commission. And I think I would like to know a little bit better about if that really functions and is essential to the composition of the body.
For the
Councillor
planning
Panich.
board,
Yes.
It can be extremely useful, and it requires a certain amount of dedication from the alternate member, because for planning at least, this is a creature of state law. You can have them. The number is strictly controlled. And if you have an alternate who has been to all of the hearings, they can fill in for a member who's absent for a special permit. And that can be absolutely critical, because you need 4 members for a special permit.
They have to be, they have to have attended all of the meetings.
But they have to have.
Right, so
relevant to that permit.
It's a commitment.
Yeah, yeah. So the difference in, how functional the system has been has really varied by how devoted the associate member is.
We've even had where the associates/alternates have let us meet quorum because of the regular members have just not been in attendance.
Okay, so that's.
Do you find it difficult? I guess it's just so interesting that
Yes.
other commissions and committees don't use alternates. So it's just interesting to me as a concept that the idea would be that it's almost assuming there is an issue with quorum ahead of time, which no one else bakes into its organization. So I would think that an associate member or an alternate that's a big ask. To ask people to attend and they don't get to be voting members except for in certain cases. I don't know.
But they have a high.
Is it possible that alternates existing make other members feel like it's okay to not be here because someone could step in for me? I'm just questioning if alternates works or not, just because it's very new to me and I'm trying to understand it as a mechanism.
It's very true, Meg, what you said, and it's also, I do believe, where some of the alternates in the past, just plain responsibility. They want to be involved, but I think they just want to be a silent partner, maybe in the aspect of it all. If that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm. Counselor Penich?
Yeah, no, our experience, I think, was mostly very different because, I think the alternate is not there to give the regular members permission to blow off a meeting. They're there for, and I think to a certain extent, this is before the remote attendance era, but still, we have had times where with the best will in the world, somebody has missed 2 meetings. This can happen because, for instance, an applicant will continue something out continually. Like, we have had applications where it's not dead, but by request of the applicant, we have now continued it multiple times over like 2 years. And it's not carelessness if somebody manages to miss 2 sessions over that period of time. And really, they're there, I think, in large part for applicants, so that when that happens, you don't derail something because it's taken forever.
And is that true for you, Mr. Gauthier?
I believe so. Yeah, yep.
Yeah, okay.
I'm particularly thinking of maybe the demolition delay. I'm just asking because I think it's something to consider. Is it a good thing for the Historical Commission to have alternates, or would it empower the members to feel like they really mattered and had to always be in attendance if they knew there were not alternates?
I believe that's true, but I really firmly believe too, I think, again, just in the past where members wanted to be involved, but maybe making that decision, that vote, and whatever happens thereafter, that was something they did, that they just don't feel comfortable. The decision that was made, so to say, a demo delay for a building being taken down, that they really had some part of that. Yes, it's your due diligence, it's your job, we've done our research, but maybe just that feeling of, oh my gosh, I had something to do with that. Maybe that affliction of, just not wanting to be a part of that.
Are alternates often used as like a pathway to getting to be a voting member? Like you are an alternate or an associate for a certain number, for a term, and then join as a...
It's been basically as of late, yes. They will move into, we will, talk to the mayor and move them up to a full-fledged commissioner, yes.
Yeah. And then my last question is, so the Springfield model has 7 commissioners and 4 alternates. The Falmouth model has 5 commissioners and then 2 alternates. What numbers seem to make the most sense to you, given the load of work, the scope and load of work that's required of the committee, and also what would seem the most functional to you?
It's a good question. I guess looking at the future, get what we can get now, so to say. That's a hard question, Megan. I look at it right now, I would just be happy to have a quorum. I would just be happy to have members.
Mm-hmm.
So go with the 5 and 2.
So maybe the 5, yeah.
Make it doable.
I'm just wanting to get clarity so that if we ask Mr. Bissonnette to help us draft, some language for next time, we have clarity on. Effectively, we're asking for a very similar Springfield model, but addressing the membership more on the Falmouth model, and also having just the one local historic district specifically named with those responsibilities instead of the great swath that Springfield has.
Exactly.
So,
Councilor Bacon.
So, and the other point I'd make about the alternate appointments is when you have dealing with specific buildings in specific neighborhoods, you can often run into a conflict of interest with a member. And so they're important in that instance.
Got it.
In this setting, I think more than some others.
Yes,
Yeah.
very true, very true.
Okay, so pretty much you like page 1. I'm calling it page 1. It's actually, hang on.
Really, everything that's-
49-2, I guess?
Yeah,
At
so
the top.
there's really just the Article 1 of the Historical District Commission. And then, of course, everything after that is very specific to every single district versus we would just have one section for the one that we have.
Right.
I was looking for the section in here that related to demolition delay, but I think it's at the end. Yes. So then the demolition delay is explained at the end. So we'd also need that language as well.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Councilor Bacon.
So around demo delay, are you seeking to change demo delay? Because our demo delay ordinance has been debated, revised. I mean, it's been a hot thing, not for a long time now, but at one time, it was the subject of hot debate. Are you seeking changes in that? Or are you happy?
You want to talk about that now?
Well, it's in, so here's the thing. It's in this
Springfield
document.
model.
Do you want us to address it, or do you want us to just look at the structure and leave our demo delay ordinance alone?
Yes.
Because we don't have to change that.
No.
Does that make sense, Mr. Gauthier?
Yes, yes, it does.
All right, then I say keep it simple.
Okay.
Yes.
Go for the
Yeah.
structure.
But keep the same demolition delay ordinance that we have now. Okay.
We can look at it again down the road, but I haven't heard noise about it now for a few years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councilor Panich?
I agree completely. Let's keep it simple.
Thank you.
Okay, then, so I see that we've made one change to 49-1?
Yep.
And other than any technical changes, changing, of course, Springfield to Holyoke everywhere in the draft?
And I think any other necessary changes that are needed once Mr. Bissonnette
Because we'll look
works
at
on
the draft
creating it.
when it comes back.
Mr. Solicitor Bissonnette, would it be possible to have a draft of this language by our August meeting? So that we can try to move this forward for these two bodies. I know they're struggling with quorum. So it sounds like what I'm hearing is that effectively we're following the Springfield model, but keeping our demolition delay ordinance, and following the Falmouth model around membership of having 5 members and 2 alternates.
So I think maybe the simplest way, I would like to offer a motion that we use the framework of 49-1 Historical District Commission out of Springfield, but amend section E so that there would be 2 alternate members. And where was the 7 or the 5?
That's up in B.
And in B, change 7
And
to
C.
5.
B and C together is how they get the 7, actually.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But that we would have a
Yep.
total of 5 regular members and 2 alternate members. And if we could get a legal form draft back for our next meeting, that would be great.
Yeah. Okay, with all that,
That's
is there
my motion.
anything else that we, and I'll second that, is there anything else that either Mr. Gauthier you want to add, or Solicitor Bissonnette that you want to add that we should be thinking about? Okay, seeing none. At this point, then, let's move to table this and request a legal form based on what Councilor Bacon has suggested.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you so much, Mr. Gauthier, for coming late.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Thank you, Mr. Bissonnette. Thank you to everyone who joined us and stayed, stuck it out. As much as I love shopping carts, I think we're going to keep that on the table, and we'll just move to adjourn. We're
Motion to
exhausted.
adjourn.
It's late. All right. Thank you all.